This could be the room of any pretentious, over-edited video essayist. And in fact it is. But it's the room of a very special, pretentious, over-edited video essayist. One that just watched all 17 feature-length Winnie the Pooh films.
Oh, bother.
There are very few franchises that have had an impact on me like Winnie the Pooh, in both childhood and as an adult.
The wonderful thing about Tiggers! Our Tiggers are wonderful things!
This silly old bear taught me life lessons and made the 100-acre wood a safe, cozy place for me to escape to whenever I need it. But not all Pooh films are created equal. There are some very close to my heart, but I think others are closer to my butt. So let's not waste any more time. We're gonna rank all 17 feature-length Winnie the Pooh films. How the hell are there 17 of these things? Where do I start with Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh? I guess I gotta start at the beginning. I gotta talk about how much a part of my childhood this film was. I even used to listen to my mother's old copy of Blustery Day on vinyl, which is of course one of the many adventures that make up this film. This movie, like a lot of Winnie the Pooh movies, is a compilation, but unlike later compilations we'll cover, it started as an almost completed film before Walt Disney himself decided to break it up into shorts to get America used to the Winnie the Pooh franchise, something they hadn't really seen before outside of a few books.
And Walt said, we're not just going to put out a feature because the American public, particularly the children in America, are not familiar with Winnie the Pooh at all.
After all those shorts were released, Disney repackaged them as the original planned feature-length film, now with a new ending that has to be one of the most beautiful moments in Winnie the Pooh history. Hits those themes of getting older and having to say goodbye to your childhood, themes that are very close to the heart and soul of Winnie the Pooh. Hits those right on the head. I cry every single time. There's such beauty in the simplicity of this scene, and when Christopher Robin hits that
silly old bear,
it's an automatic tearjerker for me. What a heartfelt moment between a boy and his bear. I can't say enough about that. But one of the best aspects of that ending is the fact that it really pulls together this film as a cohesive idea, way more than just a handful of the best episodes of a series combined, or even content from two completely different eras cobbled together like we'll see later. Aesthetically, I can't say enough about the backgrounds. I really can't even put into words how pretty these look, and the scratchiness of the Xerox era of Disney wonderfully complements the cozy atmosphere of the 100-acre wood. The animation is perfect. This, to me, is exactly what Pooh should look like. Speaking of things executed perfectly, the music. Not only do these characters really get a chance to shine, having songs of their own throughout the film, but it's amazing to see how those songs play into the score of each of those shorts.
I'm just a little black rain cloud hovering under the honey tree.
It's like each little story has its own leitmotif. Plus, each character gets their own instrument that accompanies them whenever they show up on screen. So cool. And you can tell the sound effects were just some dude making noises, which is so charming to me. It's adorable. One of my favorite things that Winnie the Pooh does is whenever they use the book itself as a storytelling and framing device, which they nail in this movie. This is the blueprint for that. It even becomes part of the plot as the film wraps up, something we'll see a few times in the Pooh franchise. The physical comedy is hysterical, the writing is so cute, especially all the classic little Poohisms our boy hits.
What I like best is me going to visit you and you saying, how about a smackerel of honey?
But there's also plenty of good tension in this movie, scary and unnerving in that classic Disney way, but the stakes never get too high, which is perfect for the 100-acre woods. Things shouldn't be that intense. Of course, I got little problems with the movie, like Christopher Robin having no pants in the snow. Where are his parents at? Plus Eeyore just kind of annexing Piglet's house and nobody stopping him, not even C-Rob, is kind of weird, but Piglet is so expressive during that scene, and Winnie the Pooh giving him a place to stay is very, very cute. This is an S-tier film. This is what Winnie the Pooh should be. I love it. Oh, and it contains probably the funniest joke in the Disney canon. That's right, I said it, singular joke, not funniest scene. This is the funniest scene.
Can I order the potatoes as a side dish?
I'll have to charge you full price.
But funniest singular joke as this bad boy.
Oh, Pooh, you mess up my moose.
If you didn't laugh, you're stupid and tasteless.
When we come back, Christopher Robin disappears and a little bear goes looking for him.
Pooh's Grand Adventure, The Search for Christopher Robin. This has to be the most dramatic of the Winnie the Pooh cartoon movies, but it works. It really captures how scary it is to be a kid, the fear of the unknown, paralleled wonderfully in that final scene between Christopher Robin and Pooh. Speaking of those two, this film somehow improves on the already legendary final scene of Many Adventures. That's right, that's my hot Pooh take. But yeah, I think this film does that interaction a bit better than Many Adventures. It feels a bit more dramatic, a bit more final. And I know it isn't final at all in reality, but I love how it sets up the stakes of this film. It's a wonderful interpretation of a classic scene from 20 years prior. Oh yeah, that's worth noting, 20 years between feature-length Pooh films. I'm gonna be sick, violently ill. A huge standout factor for me here is the music. The score itself is so, for lack of a better word, grand, even when its tongue is planted firmly in cheek.
Excuse me, Rabbit.
I gotta talk about the piano that hits in the final scene. It is absolutely beautiful.
Pooh Bear, I'm told that tomorrow I'll be going again.
Again?
When it comes to the songs, there are definitely some bangers on this soundtrack. Like the first one near the beginning had me in tears. Pooh running away from his problems and Christopher Robin trying so desperately to hold on to his childhood. Wow, powerful. That's the kind of melancholy big sad I need from these sons of bitches. They crushed it. Al's little recruitment officer jam, that slaps too. I feel like Al songs are kind of rare, so it's fun to see one, especially a full song like this one. Rabbit's song is a little weak and feels kind of like pace-breaking filler, but that was kind of my only issue with the film's music as a whole, which we'll find out isn't exactly consistent with quality across the franchise. And of course, we have to mention the best Pooh song ever. I weep when that silly old bear starts in on Wherever You Are.
Wherever you are.
That scene also contains what I think is the cutest Rabbit moment ever, and he doesn't even say a word. The 90s ass ballad version of Wherever You Are is pretty weak though, but the guitar solo in it, kinda rocks. Besides the music, the actual sound design of the movie, again, very fun.
It's only me.
And looking at the aesthetics, it's not quite as pretty as Xerox Pooh, but still beautiful, even if I feel like they muted the color palettes a little bit. You know, to get that dark, twisted, sick, demented, gritty Pooh. You see him interact a little bit in Many Adventures, but I feel like Rabbit and Tigger really get time to play off each other in this movie, and that's great to see. Having watched all the films at this point, I can really tell you how much the franchise relies on their relationship. And that odd couple dynamic never fails to be entertaining. C-Rob and Pooh might be the heart of this IP, but Tigger x Rabbit, that's the spine, or at very least the pelvis.
Whatever.
Small, tiny, little measly complaint here. The movie is thrilling, scary at times, in a much different way from Many Adventures, but the stakes and the adventure, they're just a little bit too grand for a Pooh story. One of the few things keeping this sucker from hitting S tier. Take the bees at the end of the film, for example. They're treated as a funny little physical comedy bit. Everyone runs away from them during a song.
Buzzing around.
We're on familiar ground.
They're a huge problem in other Pooh works, but they seem like nothing when Pooh just got trapped at the bottom of a cave internet historian style. It gets so hopeless feeling at times like that, but honestly everything bounces back pretty quickly. It's very 90s Pooh, big new adventures energy, even during perilous moments. It's still cute and funny for the most part. The monster and even the cave itself being all BS made up and blown out of proportion by Al and the crew is very fitting. The evil should only exist in their imaginations, nothing to fear but fear itself. I think Abraham Lincoln said that. I have to say that Christopher Robin is more charming and adorable in this than any other piece of media I've checked out on this watch through. Or should I say, watch Pooh. They give him time to hang around with Pooh and show off that relationship near the beginning of the movie. He doesn't just poke his head in at the very end of the story to preach a lesson that we've already figured out. Despite my ADHD weed brain, I like when this movie takes its time. The slower parts are packed with adorable moments and character development. Hard recommend on this bad boy. A+ film. Stellar movie. Apparently, Seasons of Giving is not on Disney+. Well, it does have the new adventure episodes that are in this movie, Ground Piglet Day and Finder Keeper, but a Winnie the Pooh Thanksgiving, which makes up the middle of this film, is nowhere to be seen, despite being nominated for a Primetime Emmy for Outstanding Children's Program in 1999, losing to The Teen Files, The Truth About Drinking.
Oh my God. This is a couple, a boyfriend and girlfriend. They were in an automobile accident. These were yesterday.
Wow.
It's hard.
How come?
It's from the drinking. It's hard.
How come?
These were yesterday.
Wow.
Oh, you know who really struggles with addiction? Someone whose chemical dependence nobody cared about until the 2010s creepypasta bullshit hit? That's right. Al smokes crack. But something else you won't find on Disney Plus are the intro and transitions. I mean, obviously, right? But I think those are exactly what's keeping this movie from seeing the light of day anymore. What in the PS2 cutscene Barbie Fairytopia ass shit is going on here? Putrid. And Eeyore over here looks like a set of old balls. Hands down the worst opening to any Pooh movie. And not just in the beginning, but throughout the whole film, they keep showing montages of old Pooh media set to the same song over and over.
Every season brings a reason to be happy.
Showing how integral the seasons are in Pooh media for something called Seasons of Giving is a cute idea, sure. But it gets grating when it happens again and again, especially considering how deep into my watch Pooh I checked this one out. Like, I've seen all this, plus jumping between the different eras of Pooh is fun as a fan, but it definitely breaks my sense of immersion. Then, in another pretty jarring move, it switches over to an episode of New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, which I touched on a little earlier, but was such a part of growing up in the 90s for me. This show was raking in awards and earning positive reviews from even the toughest of critics, quickly being moved from the Disney Channel to the always popular ABC Saturday morning lineup, where it stood along other legends like Recess and Buzz Lightyear's Star Command. A legacy that strong makes it pretty clear why Disney would want to showcase this program through a VHS release like this, especially the second episode they chose. But first things first here, and that's Ground Piglet Day. Debuting near the start of Season 2, this episode sees the 100 Acre Wood crew replacing the titular hog of Groundhog Day with our favorite attachment issues having Little Pink Dweeb. Okay, our second favorite attachment issues having Little Pink Dweeb. Okay, our third favorite the standout performance in this episode, and honestly the movie as a whole, has to be Ken Samson. The standout performance in this episode, and honestly the movie as a whole, has to be Ken Sansom as Rabbit. Jim Cummings is always great as Pooh, and I guess I glanced over Sterling Holloway in Many Adventures. Both iconic in their own ways, but Sansom's Rabbit has to be my favorite performance of any 100 Acre Wood character. He crushes it here, second only to a clinic our slime will put on a decade and a half later.
I never should have asked you to be a groundhog in the first place. Do you understand?
Packed with a ton of fun jokes, pretty animation, and even some references to classic Pooh works, this is a solid episode of New Adventures to start with, but it honestly pales in comparison to the one we'll see later. Some of that definitely has to do with the fact that it's way shorter than Finder Keeper, taking up half of the show's runtime instead of the full 22 minutes. That kind of causes the episode to feel rushed at times, like when Rabbit figures out the whole plot from just seeing the calendar pages. Swift change in intelligence there for Bunny Boy. I do love how these dummies don't even notice their own shadows near the start of the episode, though. That feels very on brand. This episode's score is a little hit or miss with me, coming in a little too hot here and there with the intensity.
Oh, dear.
But at other times absolutely nailing the mood of the scene, packing on so much extra heart.
Piglet!
But yeah, overall, a decent little bit of 90s children's television and a good introduction to the series, despite coming in Season 2. I can see why they picked this one. As for the Thanksgiving special that follows it up, it's kind of in the same mid-tier Pooh boat. But I will say this program really gave Tigger a chance to shine. Everyone was making me laugh here, to be honest. Pooh, Piglet.
Would you know what turkeys like?
I'm not certain, Pooh. Perhaps they're fond of honey?
What else do you think they like?
But Tigger is on fire, constantly throwing out bits that really reminded me why he was always my favorite character growing up.
Tigger!
I gotta mention that you can tell that Paul Winchell, Tigger's original voice actor, is getting older here, making it pretty obvious when they switch over to Jim Cummings for Tigger's singing voice.
We're gonna make old long ears proud.
We won't let them get away. We'll take them through the woods.
That being said, when it comes to laugh out loud humor, my man is unmatched in this series, and a Winnie the Pooh Thanksgiving really shows that off. We also get some cute Rabbit x Tigger here, but I do have to mention that Rabbit kind of forgot an important part of Thanksgiving. The mashed potatoes. You can't have Thanksgiving without some mashed taters and some gravy. Speaking of pairings though, I gotta say I enjoy the time we spend with Owl and Gopher, even though it's super pointless. Really no reason to, oh my god, hold up, why did they give Gopher a dumpy? God damn, my boy thicker than a mug. Coo it. Not only that, but he's in full capitalist mode, which you know I'm all about.
I was up late night balling.
But no, for real, I do love when they do this with Gopher, really leaning into the American background of this character. The capitalism, I mean, not his pooper. We also get some Tigger and Eeyore quality time, but I kind of feel like that was missed potential, besides a silly little song and like one joke. But I guess you only get so much time in a special. One character I'm not a fan of here is the narrator. Bro sounds so condescending.
And so at last, the grand day began beginning.
He's got the cadence of a British Leo. You know the shitty Adam Sandler lizard movie everybody liked for zero reason at all?
Never got to show my slick moves to a girl.
As for the music, it's decent, I guess. Nothing too memorable besides the very first song, which is super cute. It's also cool that Pooh gets a scary little song that he sings to Piglet about the turkeys. That's fun for me. That kind of thing is usually reserved for someone like Owl, Rabbit, or Tigger. The group song at the end was okay. They're not always the best coming from this crew, so I felt like I should point out the fact that it's decent. The plot is fine, coming to a climax with a Frasier-ass mix-up rolling into some solid physical comedy, followed up by a heartfelt Rabbit moment that I honestly think is done a little better in the similar but vastly superior Springtime with Roo, which I'll likely bring up every time we talk about Rabbit. What a showcase piece of media for the character. I can't wait to rank this movie. This Thanksgiving guy though, yeah, it's alright I guess. Some weird animation stuff like where the hell did all those berries come from? But it's fun. However, not fun enough to stand toe to toe with what follows it up. An episode of television that elevates what's been a mid-compilation so far into the top echelon of Pooh media. We're talking about Finder Keeper. I think this bad boy is one of the greatest pieces of 90s animated television to exist. Maybe the best. Yeah, that's right, I said it. What's better? Rugrats? The Sonic OVA? Get a grip. We're talking BoJack Horseman, my beautiful dark twisted fantasy Undertale ass levels of S tier media here. It's 22 minutes. Just pull up Disney Plus and watch it. Or steal it, I don't give a shit. You think this guy needs money? Truthfully, and with the way I was just talking about it, it sounds wild, but if we're just ranking Pooh media and this episode wasn't paired with a couple mid-lil guys, this would be above Mini Adventures. The heart, the laughs, the tears, even the animation, I love Finder Keeper so much. This is the kind of thing I show non-fans to get them poo-pilled. It touches on themes of overprotection, getting older and leaving the nest. It talks about how what people need changes and how others react to that.
You know, Piglet, sometimes people care too much. I think it's called love.
This episode even shows emotional manipulation from a parent. This really is BoJack. Good grief.
You better grow up to be something great, to make up for all the damage you've done.
I'm not covering the plot, because again, go watch it, but I will say it flies by, without feeling rushed at that. In the best way, this feels like a full movie packed into a 22-minute episode. Kessie's performance is amazing, baby voice without being annoying.
Rabbit, did you see me?
And like the rest of the film, Rabbit absolutely rocks it. The two scenes where different characters jump to save someone only to be grabbed and saved themselves by a friend, powerful. A beautiful bit of storytelling. I love the way they incorporate Kessie into the transition before the episode, and especially love how they use her in the ending. It's predictable, but if done well, predictable can be just what's needed, especially with something like Winnie the Pooh.
Just like Winnie the Pooh.
Without this sucker, just the Thanksgiving special and Ground Piglet Day by themselves, not sure that this would even make it out of the low C tier. Just not a lot going on. But the addition of Finder Keeper puts this son of a bitch above a lot of iconic Pooh films, planted firmly in B tier. Wait, why does Piglet look and sound like that in the ending?
Oh dear. It's so short.
What did they do to my boy?
The 17 Winnie the Pooh films are right behind me, aren't they?
So I'm sick for this recording, but my voice sounds like hell all the time anyway, so who cares? Alright, most important things first here. Starting in 2000 with the Tigger movie, Kango was voiced by the same woman who played Princess Sally Acorn in Sonic Sat AM. No wonder I've been thirsting after Kango. Wow! Like, look at what she does to Pooh here.
Perhaps we could use another helping hand.
New cartoon crush unlocked.
Back to business though, this is only the second theatrical release for a Winnie the Pooh movie ever. 23 years after Mini Adventures. And it was never even meant to be, but we'll get more into that later. For being about a side character, this animation is beautiful. I love the way Tigger's stripes and Rabbit's fur look in particular. And Pooh's fuzzy little belly makes me squeal every time I see it. I love that aspect of his character design. Every time they do that, smile on my face. Everyone's lines close up look all scratchy, and it's so dope to me. This film kicks off immediately with some classic Pooh references, giving us a full version of the Tigger song, and Tigger entering Pooh's house the same way he did the first time he ever showed up, all the way back in 1968.
That's T-I-double-G-R, and that's me.
I know. You've bounced me lots and lots of times.
These references continue throughout the film, even being spun on their head in some heart-wrenching moments by our main character.
The most wonderful thing about Tiggers is I'm the very only, last, lonely, single, solitary one.
I've seen a lot of negative reaction and reviews to the whole letter thing, and honestly, I see what they mean. I know the 100 Acre Wood Squad sees themselves as Tigger's family, but they also know how hard he's been looking for his family. His mother, father, Grand Tigger, and stuff. Maybe the emotional intelligence needed to see where their letter could be misleading is something only possessed by Christopher Robin, who, of course, isn't present here. But not even Kango realizes, bad and toxic, we got ourselves a winner here, boys. Sure, you can say that Tigger's delusion and manic behavior made him misinterpret the already misleading letter, but that's the issue. The letter was misleading. I think animation legend, one of Disney's original 9 old men, Ollie Johnston, said it best here of the Pooh characters.
There's certainly an honesty and an innocence to these Pooh characters. They aren't putting anything over on anybody. They don't try to put anything over on each other.
More heartbreaking letter, this one or the one to Bojack from Hollyhock? Be honest. The score's pretty solid in this, especially during the emotional beats. The actual musical numbers are done by Pooh OGs, the Sherman Brothers. These songs are actually what got the Tigger movie into theaters. Michael Eisner heard these songs and was so impressed, he was like, nah, not VHS, or DVD, I guess, at the time. No, I think this was still VHS. I don't know. Time isn't real. He was like, put it in the cinema. But to me, the soundtrack doesn't exactly stand out. Some of the songs, in fact, I feel like really break the pace of the film. Like take Pooh's Sleepy Bee song. I'm always about our boy getting some honey, a little smackle, but I can also tell you when something blatantly brings the plot to an absolute halt.
Lullaby, lullaby, honeybees.
I do like the full version of the classic Tigger song I mentioned earlier, and I enjoy the song that follows it up as well, but even when I enjoyed a song, it sometimes just felt like it came at the wrong time for me, like Tigger's Family Tree song.
Round, round my family tree, I look like them and they look like me.
It kind of feels weird for where it's at in the movie, not where it's at in the plot, if that makes sense, but where we are in the film. Tigger is so excited by the letter that he sings this jolly show-tuney ass I Want song, but it feels kind of weird coming halfway through the movie. I don't know, not a bad song at all, I like it in fact. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but something just seems off to me about the timing. The song that plays over the credits is fine, very 2000s Disney, Kenny mother effing Loggins.
You're never alone, you know, just think of your friends.
And the credits that accompany it being a classic storybook Pooh version of the plot, very, very cute. The group song, How to Be a Tigger, starts kind of slow, but picks up once everyone starts singing at the same time. Individually though, kind of weak, except Pooh, who absolutely gets after it.
And if I don't eat honey from the honey pot, old Tigger will plainly see.
Plus I gotta add his unwavering optimism, maybe stupidity, I don't know, is so charming in this movie. When he inserts himself into the plot, I was a very happy young man.
What we need is... think, think, think.
To me, a lot of Winnie the Pooh is about an emotional attachment I have to these characters. But it's hard to get emotionally connected to Tigger sometimes when he's so delusional and manic and all over the place with his emotions. Seems like that kind of thing would be relatable for me, right? Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. Even though I was ranting in previous reviews about how much he means to me as a character, he's just not doing it for me here. Not to mention Tigger is easily the most stress-inducing character we've talked about on this channel since... Despite laughing at a lot of his jokes, the usual emotional connection I have to characters like Pooh and C-Rob and that one evil slime monster from New Adventure surprisingly isn't there for Tigger over the course of an 80-minute movie. But maybe it's not surprising when our man's behavior ranges from not listening at all to complete manic sociopath, even almost killing Eeyore at one point. Crud, his name was Crud. But I will say Roo is great as the emotional core of this movie, which is ironic considering a film we'll talk about later on. I also love how he nails the soup-de-doop bounce twice in the climax. Really dope how they brought that back and how Tigger had it in him the whole time. All it took was a little confidence from a friend. I love the way that Roo is animated in this too, like the scene at Pooh's house. You can see his desperation and Pooh's determination really shining through in their expressions alone. I can see why the franchise went in that little Roo direction for a while after they did this movie. I also loved the scene where everyone convinced Rabbit to search for Tigger. The most gripping part of the film for me emotionally. Very well done, even if it's a bit on the nose.
Sorta lit up the room when he came in.
But the getting ready for winter thing? That was a weak subplot with a weird resolution. Another problem really holding this film back. Even if me forgetting about the issue was by design, mimicking the procrastination by the characters in the movie, I still have questions. Like, how'd Tigger build a house for Eeyore? Did someone help him with that? Why didn't they get credit for the gift too? And where did Tigger get this honey? None of these gifts have context. It's like they forgot about the prepping for winter subplot and used Tigger pulling these gifts from the ether as a way to explain it. Except his gift to Rabbit, which is a sweet little I'm gonna sneeze. Except his gift to Rabbit, which is a sweet little promise to be careful, followed up by a hug. We love Rabbit and Tigger. Plus that hug when the avalanche is coming? God, big cuties. Christopher Robin, the winter version, comes in and explains the moral of the story. The others never apologize for their misleading letter and lack of communication once the misunderstanding happens. But Tigger does admit that he should have seen that they were his real family all along. Yay! So we got like half a good lesson there. Muppets from Space head-ass plot.
Doctor? 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 Oh, doctor. Doctor.
Overall, this bad boy definitely has its issues, but it's really, really pretty. Particularly in the way they cycle through the seasons. Plus, it's honestly filled with some fun, cute moments. B- overall. Oh yeah, and Tigger's rug is obviously just designed to look like him, but it kinda has some dark implications when you think about it. Tigger, your family has been skinned on your floor this whole time. We got ourselves another compilation here, boys. A handful of episodes from the Book of Pooh, a Playhouse Disney series beginning in 2001. This is honestly one of the least talked about eras of Pooh, so shout out to the Glad in Gladiator for his Book of Pooh video. He goes over how in many ways it was a spiritual successor to 1983's Welcome to Pooh Corner. But instead of gross-looking, uncanny mascots
touching you in a not okay way.
No!
They switched over to slightly less weird, but definitely still weird puppet versions of these characters. Tigger's the only one to me that doesn't look strange. Maybe it's his more complex design, but his puppet really stood out to me, not only in the actual character model, but in how expressive he was at times. Excellent puppeteering. Ooh, I like the Eeyore puppet too, very soft looking, wrinkly little guy. But only getting two of the characters right isn't a great stat. Well, I guess Owl looks fine too, pretty spot on to what he should be.
My word, doesn't anyone around here know I'm nocturnal?
The Glad in Gladiators video also talks about how this is one of the first puppet TV shows to use a green screen instead of an actual set. That kind of innovation is going to come with some hiccups, but compared to other shows at the time, this was a huge improvement. The use of green screen allows for some interesting shots and angles that might be pretty difficult to achieve with puppets otherwise, especially on a children's TV show budget. The Book of Pooh was produced by the same team behind Bear in the Big Blue House. But unlike Bear in the Big Blue House, I don't think Muppet Studios was involved this time. If I'm off base on that, correct me in the comments, but to me, that's why these puppets look so dang ugly. Get some of that Muppet felt on these. Get these suckers expressing. Come on, come on. The voices sound great. Of course, we got the whole crew here. Fielder, Sansom, Cummings, and they were absolutely cooking with this one. They seemed like they were having such a good time recording.
Splendiferous! Then we'll start the RTTP, Death Rigorous Tiggerous Training Program, right away!
But is that separation between voice and puppeteer another reason behind that disconnect I feel towards these puppets? Maybe? I don't know enough about puppeteering to really tell you, but I can certainly pretend to. Oh, and actually for real this time, Rabbit looks like
William Afton.
Look at how Elriz you are! How skibbity toy!
The CGI is rough in this one too, but it's not quite as jaw-droppingly bad as Seasons of Giving. I understand where technology was at the time, but this looks like it cost $14 to make. Why isn't there more YouTube content that's just puppets and a green screen? Is there? Do I just not know about it? This show also brought our girl Kessie to the main cast for the first time as a permanent fixture, centering a number of episodes around her, including Kessie Wises Up, which is found in the Stories from the Heart compilation we're covering today. I think it's great to see Kessie in the main cast, especially compared to some other additions that we'll see later. And I don't just mean for fan service, because we all love Finder Keeper. She grounds Rabbit. She gives Tigger somebody to play off in a big brother way that isn't quite as close to him in personality and motivation as Rue. Wait, Rue. Rue's not in this at all. I just realized that. I guess we don't really need him because Kessie fills the role of an impressionable young kid. But what about the role of absolute baddie?
Oh my.
You mean he actually likes hoeing?
Another standout character to me over the course of this series and therefore the film is Al. Usually one to give out dumb and bad advice, what he says in this movie is actually pretty profound.
Knowledge is everywhere. One must simply be out in the world and contemplate what you see around you.
He even provides the voice of reason in a way that's typically saved for Krista Ben-Raffer, who they of course save for the very end of the film. I don't mind that move here, really, as the whole plot builds to him finally coming home. Or I guess thread is a more appropriate term here. Plot is kind of strong. We check in after all 6 episodes. That's right, 6 episodes. That's why I'm not covering each one. We check in after all 6 episodes on how the gang is dealing with the mess they've made in Christopher Robin's room, looking for his diary of a wimpy kid. Knowing they have to fix it and save his good reputation with Mom and therefore his weekly V-Bucks allowance.
I want to marry Naruto. Naruto, no wait.
Can you tell I'm real cool and young with all these references? Please subscribe, I'm so lonely. I think it goes without saying that over this compilation, Rabbit and Tigger absolutely shined. This is actually the first film I watched for this video, between it being available on YouTube for free and me, a Muppet fan, just being interested in a Pooh puppet show. A show that I was a little too old for when it actually aired. But this being the first step in my watch Pooh, it was the first time I really noticed how the Radgar dynamic carries this franchise. More so than other relationships, even Pooh and Piglet, this relationship is 3-dimensional. It has conflict, it develops, it changes. Take Rabbit's reaction to Tigger's garden doing better than his own. This isn't just a fitting response for the character of Rabbit.
Congratulations. You're obviously a terrific gardener. Maybe the best gardener in the whole 100-acre wood.
It's a very real reaction to success. And Tigger's speech about that near the end of this episode is a very emotionally resonating moment in a movie that otherwise kind of fails to pull on the heartstrings like a piece of Pooh media should. Piece of Pooh media. If I wanted people to care about that, I should have worded it better. But we have Rabbit x Tigger to thank for that well done emotional beat. No other 2 characters consistently bring that kind of engaging dynamic, and Book of Pooh, Stories from the Heart, spends a lot of time showing that off, so that's definitely a positive. Plus Tigger alone was on fire with the comedy here.
I need my beauty sleep.
You can say that again. So, fellas, what are we doing? The night's young.
The fact of the matter is, when they fired Andrew Beckett because he had AIDS, they broke the law.
Another big positive in this compilation. But a negative, to me, is the music. The score itself is actually pretty good for the most part. Fitting, even if it's a little bit distracting at times. Like this dramatic ass funeral march as they walk to Pooh's house. Speaking of which, Tigger's lucky Pooh didn't have that motherfucking thing on him, you understand? Walking in on a little old bear like that, that's dangerous. As much as the score works, the songs the characters sing do not. Some of these are actively annoying, like the William Shatner-ass track from Tigger.
You'll soon see why, 'cause there's no doubt.
And as much as I love her, Kessie's singing voice is a lot. The performance overall rocked, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, anyway.
But I was glad when her song was over. And the songs that aren't grating are just forgettable and sometimes even poorly mixed. Yeah, maybe it was just the copy that someone had uploaded, but sometimes this shit sounded like Sonic Adventure 2. Like, listen to how loud these sound effects are here.
There are mountains crawling and waters waterfalling. Now I just need to figure out the way.
There's also a song that says Heine? That's wild for the 100-acre wood. Foul even. They might as well say a gamer slur. But yeah, a couple good songs in the mix there that are very much drowned out by a plethora of absolutely ass tracks.
See, I'm ready to stand on my own.
The very end of the film features Christopher Robin interacting with the cast in the real world.
What?
Other than that, pretty boring ending. No real emotional beat. Not that I think you really could come to one after this nothing story about the crew learning how journals work. See Rob reading to them is cute, but that's about it. All in all, this is a perfectly serviceable compilation of episodes, but a little weak emotionally as far as Pooh goes. All the conflicts get resolved fast, but I guess we don't really have a lot of time per episode. Plus you can't have the kiddos being sad too long. Ugly puppets, mid-songs with a couple exceptions for each, made up for by solid puppeteering and excellent voice acting. Everyone's in character here, which is awesome, but as usual, Rabbit and Tigger's relationship really stood out. This is going in the C tier. Fun, but doesn't really stack up to what we've seen so far. Oh, and in one of the interludes, we get this Toy Story-ass moment.
Christopher, is that you?
Christopher Robin's mother!
I could have sworn I heard talking up here. Oh, I'll have to talk to Christopher about it when he gets home.
This is even wilder than the real world interaction we talked about earlier. This kind of thing is gonna put Christopher Robin's poor mother in a mental institution. Have we ever seen something like this in the Pooh universe before? I guess in the live action Christopher Robin, kinda. But I don't think this is a regular thing in the Book of Pooh series. The episodes that I've seen always end with the same song and everybody jumping back into the book. Let me know if this kind of thing happens anywhere else across Pooh media, or if I'm just missing something obvious here. But more important than anything y'all got to say, Mama Robin, baddie, as usual. So my fault, I stand corrected. Baddie quota is met. We're good. Here's the rub. A good chunk of A Very Merry Pooh Year is just the TV special Winnie the Pooh and Christmas 2 with some extra content sprinkled around it. I didn't realize that at first, but as more and more scenes started hitting my nostalgia nerve, I got curious and looked it up. I was wondering why I remembered so much about something that came out in 2002, long after I stopped enjoying Winnie the Pooh. I mean, I guess until now. But this Christmas special came out in 1991 and was based off the New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, which, like I said, was very much the Pooh I grew up on. I know I got on Seasons of Giving for being so jarring when it switches between Pooh media, but when this film goes into New Adventures mode, that transition that they use going up to the sky with Rabbit still talking underneath,
and naturally we were all quite festive,
is actually really well done and keeps how noticeable that switch is to a minimum, flawlessly changing focus to the snowflake that kicks off Christmas 2. They just chopped the Michael Eisner jump scare off the beginning. You know, the one where Tigger's extra sassy with him for some reason?
I've got an idea. Let's get some decorations. Whatever you think. Just perfect. Oh, you're only saying that because it's true.
From a story standpoint, though, that switch does kind of happen out of nowhere. We go from Jingle Bells right into Rabbit's Christmas Tale with nothing but a fade, a pan, and a little reminiscing conversation between. But I don't think it's the nostalgia talking when I say that once we get into Winnie the Pooh and Christmas 2, this film really turns it up a notch. This is actually another Pooh TV special to earn a Primetime Emmy nomination, losing this time to Mark Twain and Me, which also took home Primetime Emmys that year for makeup and directing for a miniseries or special.
Let me explain why Homestuck isn't problematic and bad, actually. First, let's talk about Mark Twain.
Bro's got that shit on. He look like he's in Boys to Men.
Never meant to take your love away.
Now we return to Winnie the Pooh and Christmas 2.
The fact that they stick this special, Pooh, not Mark Twain, right in the middle of the movie also means the animation at that point gets much more expressive and less stiff than during the tacked-on intro. That animation isn't awful, in fact it's pretty well done at times, far from lifeless, but it pales in comparison to the New Adventure style of Christmas 2, which ends about 30 minutes in. That 2000 style does take big swings at times, but it's kinda hit or miss. And when it comes to the small stuff that can really make or break animation, I feel like they cut some corners there. Take for instance this scene where Tigger lets out a big gasp. You can barely even see him yet. I feel like a cartoony ass noise like that should get equally expressive animation. How would Tigger making that same noise be animated in New Adventures? Think about it. That style of animation is so pretty compared to what comes before and after in this movie. It breathes so much life into these characters. Like how Rabbit looks here. In fact, he's almost always super expressive, barring a couple examples that come to mind. Probably because he has big eyes compared to the beadier ones of other characters like Pooh, Tigger, and Piglet. But he especially stands out here with his faces and movement. Pooh emotes really well here too, like when he gets sad or when he's trekking through the wind. His face alone tells so much about what's going through his head in those moments. And it goes without saying that Jim Cummings is on fire for this performance. Like, listen to the stress he puts on just a classic two-word Poohism.
Oh, bother.
Despite my love for Radger when it comes to the Christmas special alone, Pooh and Rabbit's interactions were really on display here. Love seeing how Pooh's calmness breaks through Rabbit's panicked frenzy.
Well, what are you waiting for? Put down a present for Pooh.
He can't.
Why not?
You have the pencil, Rabbit.
Pooh's relationship with Tigger rocked here too.
Need a little help, huh?
Hey, anything for old Saint Nick? A 1, a 2, a 5!
In this Sonic the Hedgehog-ass large cast of furry friends, Pooh often takes a back seat in his own IP. I mean, we've spent so much time in this video already talking about Rabbit and Tigger and even Kessie, but it makes me happy that we're getting some time for Pooh to show off why he's the bread, butter, and honey of the 100-Acre Wood.
We are going to find a way to bring Christmas to everyone.
Winnie the Pooh in Christmas 2 also gives us some adorable little outfits for the 100-Acre Wood squad, like Pooh's cute little hat and Tigger's iconic tea sweatshirt. Let me ask y'all something, and for real, comment below if you think of one. But what other characters are so quintessentially 90s despite being created decades before? Dustin said Bart Simpson and TMNT, both great answers, but way more recent than Tigger. Not even a decade before the 90s, really, or in the 80s. Barely in the 80s for Bart Simpson, right?
What is the mind? Is it just a system of impulses, or...
But point being the timelessness of these Pooh characters. Pretty amazing to me. As far as humor though, nothing really to write home about from old Stripes here. He's got a couple banger lines.
Oh, this excitement is getting me excited.
But our boy was kind of hot and cold with the jokes for the most part. Like later in the film when he swears off bouncing, he completely misses the opportunity to say, renounce the bounce. But I guess he does say this.
This Tigger's high hoppin' days are history.
Someone who was hilarious in this though, Eeyore. They gave him time to absolutely sparkle in this. You know, in that Eeyore kind of way.
Tra-la-la-la-la-la-la-la.
And not just during Winnie the Pooh and Christmas 2, we're talking about all throughout A Very Merry Pooh Year.
No longer our warm fuzzy selves?
No more bundles of joy.
Oh my.
But as far as the Christmas special itself, Eeyore, Tigger, and the rest of the crew are really playing the hits, just Christmas-fied. Christmas-ified? The Christmas version. Tigger destroys Eeyore's house with some snow in a manic episode, and Rabbit fights with some bugs that look like shellless turtles eating up his tree. When it comes to the rest of the characters, it was honestly nice to see everyone interacting with C-Rob near the start of the episode. Homeboy didn't just pop in when things were finished to tell everyone why they're dumb. Personally though, it is kinda weird to hear a British kid dub over New Adventures Christopher Robin, a staunchly American Pooh series.
Fly swatter for...
Fly swatter for...
But we also get Gopher, so best of both worlds here.
Santa Claus.
Jokes aside though, you really do feel the 90s American culture permeating through the Winnie the Pooh and Christmas 2 part of the movie. Like the physicality within the comedy, the dialogue and jokes themselves.
Santa was supposed to bring you a new home.
He did. A mobile home.
And even Tigger feeling a little violent?
If that's another one of them phony Sandys, I'm gonna nail him.
What in the burgers and banjos is going on here? Y'all know I love a reference to classic Pooh content, and lucky for me, despite a brief glimpse of inflation, we see Piglet and Pooh get carried away by a balloon, kinda harkening back to Pooh's trouble with a balloon in many adventures. Why wouldn't they float away? They're stuffed animals after all. And that bit in particular is really capped off when they start to fall and Piglet tries to blow up the balloon to save them. Brilliant. Very well done. Christopher Robin does prevent Pooh from floating away a second time later in the movie, but I was more tickled by the callback than disappointed by the lack of a flying bear. The Christmas 2 story is simple and sweet with a cute little ending that obviously fires off all my nostalgia buttons, even if the resolution does feel a bit rushed.
You aren't going to get any presents.
As long as we've got you, we don't need any presents.
That little nuzzle that C-Rob hits when he hugs Pooh, tear up every time. But as good as that transition into the episode was, just fading back into the early 2000s style of Pooh animation from New Adventures is jarring. As jarring as anything we've seen so far, even if they try to soften everything with the classic Winnie the Pooh fireplace lighting. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Fireplace lighting. It's all over Pooh media. These motherfuckers don't have lamps. When they come back from Rabbit's story, they try to make this section of the film not feel like meaningless filler with a song, but it has the opposite effect. This and the Jingle Bells cover at the beginning, pretty weak stuff. Well, I guess Jingle Bells is fine. It's better than an outright bad original song, but in my opinion, a halfway decent original number will always beat out the best version of something like this.
Jingle bells, jingle all the way.
I will say I like that they start off with the classic
Deep in the 100-acre wood.
And that they ditched trying to CGI the room itself, but I'm not entirely sure what they were doing with the frame rate at times. But I can't even get my version of the in focus, so what do I know? The score though, pretty good stuff, especially shining in the New Adventures section of the film. I mentioned that things slow down a ton once the Christmas special wraps, but right on time here comes Rabbit and Tigger interactions to save the day.
And now the most Tiggerific part, to catch! Oopsie. My carrot!
From there, we roll into New Year celebrations, finally justifying the name of this picture and giving us its first decent song, a fun little New Year's ditty from Pooh.
Happy New Year, Pooh, happy Pooh, year new.
But the personality switch story that came after that, I did not see coming at all. And I mean that in the best way, because it's an absolute blast. After seeing so much of these characters, watching them Freaky Friday it up was very entertaining for me and led to some classic moments.
Hiya, long ears!
Don't think you'll find me here. Would you like something sweet while you're waiting?
At least I think I'm glad. I'm not sure how glad feels. But if I...
But Eeyore being Pooh? Absolutely cursed. Horrifying. Now I can see why a knock on the door in the middle of the day was enough to scare the shit out of Piglet.
Oh,
that smile, walking on two legs, an eating disorder? Bro's almost as scary as Piglet's laugh right here.
I'm the Joker, baby.
As much as I love the Christmas 2 ending, this part of the film wraps up pretty nicely too. I really like Tigger coming in for the save, and I'm glad there's a little moment of regret after they all break their New Year's resolutions. It keeps the resolution of the story from feeling rushed. I also like that Rabbit clearly had his mind made up already, fully knowing the lesson before C-Rob even shows up to explain it. That solid ending, paired with the strength of Winnie the Pooh and Christmas 2, puts this at a B- for me. Music was kind of whack, and the animation difference was stark, but Gopher's here! Plus, that second half is really the Rabbit and Tigger show, and we know that tends to rock. But also, why is Tigger still so obsessed with jingly bells when we're this close to the ending of the movie? It's New Year's now. It made sense near Christmas, it was cute, reeked of classic Tigger even. But dude, it's been a week. You're not over these things yet? We're not even on the same holiday anymore, bro. Grow the up. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have more Winnie the Pooh films to review. Deep in my 100-acre ass, where Christopher Nelson plays, you'll buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks, and be mad that I called Scooter gay. wild to me how we went from Disney not even wanting Piglet around, replacing him in the original 1966 short Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Tree, with Gopher instead.
Think it over. Let me know. You got my card. I got the book, you know.
Oh. To eventually our little oinker getting his own feature-length motion picture, Piglet's Big Movie. So where is the Gopher movie, where he tears down an orphanage to build another Wall Street or something badass and American like that? Much like the Tigger movie, Piglet's Big Movie wasn't originally meant for theaters. Produced by masters of the low-budget Disney sequel Disney Toon Studios, this film was originally intended to be a direct-to-video release. But in February of 2002, it was announced that this picture, along with The Jungle Book 2, would be released in cinemas. One word to describe Piglet's Big Movie? Sexy. No, funny. If we're going joke for joke, this movie might outshine every single other Pooh film, containing in particular what I think is the second funniest joke in the Winnie the Pooh canon.
What about our honey? It's your honey or your life.
Hysterical. A joke not just structured out of the personality of these characters, but also with a built-in reference to something we all love from the series, the thinking Pooh face. It might come with the territory of injecting so much humor into this film, but sometimes the 100 Acre Wood crew seem a little ruder with each other than in previous pictures.
You don't want to grow up small and weak like Piglet.
Sometimes what seems like these characters acting outside themselves is actually closer to the original A.A. Milne works than a lot of what we've seen from Disney. Not just that Kanga line I played, but take for instance what Pooh says about naming Pooh Corner.
So we could call this place Pooh and Piglet Corner. If Pooh Corner didn't sound better, which it does, being smaller and more like a corner.
I don't want to be alive.
It might seem out of character at a glance, even mean-spirited, according to some cartoon. Why'd I say it like that? You guys know why I said it like that. Cartoon people love that. Cartoon people. You know, f***ing Toontown. What am I even saying right now? But I believe the characterization we find in Piglet's Big Movie rings pretty true to what's found in the original source material, a little less softened by the hand of Disney. Another bit of characterization that might seem odd at first, but I think actually works, is how we see Piglet being fairly brave throughout the film. Going in, you expect the plot to be about him developing that courage, but it's not at all. Plus, him being a wuss the whole film would've got annoying. He still has his struggles with being small, but it's not grating and it doesn't bring the plot to a halt like him constantly being scared might. But what does seem out of place to me is the 100 Acre Wood crew, Pooh especially, being so dismissive of Piglet's help and show of bravery.
But I was...
Oh, Piglet, I'm sorry that you couldn't be part of our big plan.
That seems very out of character to me. I know it's important for the plot, but man, I think there's a big difference between being obliviously ignorant and just flat dick-hittedness.
Hooray for Pooh. I always like that story. It has such a lovely end.
But nobody said hooray for Piglet. He was so brave.
Tigger? Maybe. Rabbit? Probably. But never Pooh. Pooh does admit he should have called it Pooh and Piglet Corner from the jump, a moment that isn't in the original book. Now, does all this talk about the book make me a hypocrite, considering I didn't mention the dishonesty shown towards Eeyore from Pooh and Piglet during Chapter 1 of The House at Pooh Corner when I reviewed the Tigger movie? Definitely. But I don't know if it's because we're talking about one chapter of a book compared to the main conflict of a feature-length film, but the dishonesty in that book seems a lot smaller scale to me. I also think the ending of the book justifies the first chapter, with Eeyore annexing Piglet's house, forcing him to live with Pooh, and explaining that out-of-nowhere plot point that confused me in many adventures. I swear to God, if you ever questioned me about Winnie the Pooh again, I'll kiss you right. Back to the Piglet picture, I'm impressed with how much it takes from the classic Pooh stories. But we're judging these as films, so it's hard for me to give it points for just that. Seeing even the songs being a reference to the Pooh books, though, kinda rocks and is the most positive aspect of a pretty weak soundtrack. Which kicks off the flaws I found in this film. The soundtrack has Disney's Tarzan syndrome. As much as the songs slap, I would much rather hear Tarzan or Jane sing about the plot and themes of the film than Phil Collins. And I would much rather hear Pooh or Piglet sing about the plot and themes of the film than Carly Simon. Plus the live action credits where she's just chilling in the 100 Acre Wood. Did not like that at all. These songs seem so important to the movie. Why aren't we getting the characters singing them like in 90% of Pooh media? I mean, they do sing here and there. It's a musical, technically, I guess. But none of them have the big emotionally charged songs. What a friggin' flub. I'm not Stephen goddamn Sondheim or anything, but I do know the point of a musical number in a film is to show that characters have so much emotion, regular old talking won't do it justice. Their emotions boil over into song, which boils over into dance. And you know what this film lacks? Emotion. It's funny, but not too many moments that really pull on the heartstrings like I personally need from Pooh. The moments they choose to have these characters sing in Piglet's big movie feel more like they're there to switch up the pace and lighten things up a bit.
I mean, which is fine, but...
I do like what they did with the classic Winnie the Pooh song, which is always sung by someone outside the story.
Deep in the 100-acre wood.
Soft, light, folksy, very much feels like Piglet's version of the track. The song If I Wasn't So Small, though, sucks. Double sucks because it's some rando singing instead of Piglet. Takes all the I out of the I Want song. You're literally singing Piglet's feelings. Just make his mouth move, Christ. In fact, you can apply that to so much of the soundtrack. Take for instance the song that plays while Kanga gives Piglet a bath. Sounds weird, I know, but it almost makes sense when you watch the movie. But this song, featuring lyrics about what a mom does and how she can see the true you, could have been silly, adorable, and a great foil for Piglet absolutely bugging out. But of course they're on that Phil Collins bullshit, and we have goddamn Carly Rae Jepsen or whoever singing it. I know it's Carly Simon, I already said her name one time. Don't correct me in the comments, please. There's other stuff to correct me about, I'm sure. Sure. The sequence itself is cute and is loaded with some good bits like the bubbles, which I was happy to see come back later in the film. But if we had Kanga singing this instead, this could have been an all-time Pooh scene, especially for this era. In fact, there were some elements of the New Adventures version of this story, Season 1's The Old Switcheroo, that I vastly enjoyed over Piglet's big movie. While straying away a bit more from the original chapter, this episode features a smoother setup that doesn't involve having to flash back to Kanga and Roo first moving into the woods, and an ending that features both Roo and Tigger getting the comeuppance they deserve.
Grubbly bubbly.
No, I'm too young.
Plus, we still get sassy Kanga.
If you keep making faces like a piglet, you'll grow up to look like a piglet, and then think how sorry you'll be.
But.
But also, Piglet trapped nose to nose with Kanga? Living my dream and mans doesn't even appreciate it. Best case scenario, with the baddest John in the 100-acre wood in his own motion picture and he fumbles. Disgusting. Shameful.
I'm going to give you a bath.
Cook me instead!
But he does get a little kiss and called by his name, so I guess he really is the star of the picture after all. Outside of the numbers, the actual score rocks, especially when the drama starts to ramp up, like the beautiful piano used in the emotional climax of the film. Classic Pooh right there. Piglet's big movie does have those sweet moments that make me smile, and the score definitely helps. Just smile though, no tears. Doesn't hit like that. Some random person singing definitely doesn't help that either, but I've said that enough. The score also knows when to go away, letting those moments sink in and even feel ominous when it's needed.
There you all are. Oh, you brought flowers.
Featuring some fun sound design.
Hello?
And action that doesn't drag or feel out of place in the Poohniverse. In many ways, this feels like a return to form for the silly old bear. But when you look at the film's animation, it's not bad, but definitely a step back from the Tigger movie 3 years earlier. Don't get me wrong, the animation is good. The characters are expressive, and of course that goes double for Rabbit. Plus, the water in this movie looks gorgeous. From the river to the rain, they nailed it. Not to mention some beautifully lit scenes that really stood out to me when compared to the rest of the series. But the line work and other small elements the Tigger movie crushed just kinda aren't here. I do love the style of the drawings the characters make throughout the movie, and the way they animate it at the end is pretty awesome. The characters' little versions of each story drawn in what looks like crayon are the absolute cutest. Since we didn't get a Kanga song, this is probably my favorite part of the movie. Takes it from a C to a C+, but not any higher because that corny ass singing comes back as soon as I'm really hooked. takes me right out of the moment. But how they use those drawings in the credits is cute too, doing stuff like showing Piglet doodling above some of the designers and painting above the backgrounds team. If I was anybody else on YouTube.com, I'd be giving this movie bonus points for the consistency it keeps between the other films. Tiggers hate honey. Plus we see Tigger's family from his movie? Really cool, but doesn't make it a better film. Sorry, literally every fan of everything ever. People love making memes from Piglet's big movie, and I get it. It's kind of a shit post itself, and I mean that in the best way. The Sonic Boom, the Teen Titans Go of the Pooh franchise, two shows I love, but also two shows people heavily criticize for straying so far away from the source material. I also want to shout out the Piglet's Big Movie YTP collab by Tristan Lanier?
The rest of the plan is simple. I fly to the moon. I shrink the moon. I grab the moon. I sit on the toilet. What?
Very silly, had me dying laughing, but not packed with edgy bullshit. I'd recommend it if you're a cool internet person, but definitely watch the real movie first. The jokes make it worth your time. Plus the YTP is way funnier with the context of the real film. Despite the humor, this is really just a C+ to me. To have a collection of stories truly work like mini adventures, they can't feel like they break the pacing. This feels more like a hodgepodge. Mini Adventures is the 3 stories. That probably doesn't make any sense. I guess what I'm saying is a movie like Mini Adventures just flows better than this film. Plus a name like Piglet's Big Movie, you would think it would really hone in on one plot for our little pink friend. Like the Tigger movie. I don't know, maybe it was one story too many, but the format really just wasn't doing it for me. I appreciate using so much from the old books, but so did Mini Adventures. There's a way to do it without feeling like a backdoor pilot to a Piglet TV show. The random stories popping up in the middle of the film really feel out of place here, despite that being so common across Pooh pictures. Plus, I did not care for the music outside of the score, which the scores have honestly been pretty good across all these movies. And Pooh's characterization feels the most off it's been yet. They use Piglet perfectly though, and it's packed with laugh out loud moments, especially in the first half.
Tigger's here, Eeyore's here, Pooh is here, I'm here. Who am I forgetting?
I don't know, Rabbit. Let's ask Piglet. Oh, bother.
But kinda like Book of Pooh, there's a lack of emotional beats that really hit hard. And I'm finding that's the difference between good and decent in the Pooh filmography. Certain elements of the plot stood out as positive for sure, like Piglet being on stilts when he comes to the rescue, good way to show how he can make himself big and important, but for selfless reasons, to help his friends. And less essential to the plot, but I do like the sweet little swerve of Eeyore not crashing into his new house when he slips on the snow. Good to see good things happen to our depressed little donkey friend. Also, weirdly enough, I enjoyed how often we saw the river in this movie. It popping up over and over again and being so essential to the plot really makes the 100-Acre Wood seem small and intimate in a very fitting way. But this movie could have rocked so much more if they just let Gang sing. Not just a few bars here and there either, I'm talking full numbers. Y'all are silencing them. No wonder nobody gives a shit. Going into this, I did not have faith that Roo could carry an entire film on his own. But of course, this is Winnie the Pooh, big cast of fuzzy friends. He doesn't have to carry it by himself. The first thing I did notice with this film though was another slight step backwards for the animation. The scratchiness of the characters and the little design quirks were there, even more so than Piglet's Big Movie. But this film doesn't utilize squash and stretch like that or the Tigger movie did, leading these characters to be a little less expressive. As usual though, the settings and backgrounds look beautiful. While it's a roll of the dice at times, they do some fun things with the lighting to set the mood throughout the film and make up for the little step back in expressiveness. But that step back, it's only visually. When it comes to the voice acting, this is truly Ken Sampson's magnum opus as Rabbit, with Jim Cummings as Tigger absolutely crushing it too. Not that any other performances stood out as bad, but the dramatic moments between these two characters let the actors absolutely shine.
But there was plenty of fun to go around. What'd you have to stop us for? Well, I didn't have a choice. It was complete and utter chaos, a disaster in the making.
The sound design in this bad boy is also a blast, really gives me vintage Pooh vibes.
Honey's no good for anything but making messes.
And eating, Rabbit.
Oh.
In fact, it's so good it even fools Rabbit at one point.
Oh, Tigger! Tigger, it's me, Rabbit!
The way this film uses the song Easter Day with You is exactly what I was looking for in Piglet's big movie. I don't want to seem like I'm exclusively comparing those films, but when Roo is sad, drawing a picture of him with Rabbit, singing a depressing version of this track, that's such an easy way to get me emotionally invested in these characters. Not to mention, it's a very creative reprise of the song.
'Cause what I like most about Easter is the way we show our pals we care.
Is Roo singing good by technical standards, whatever that means? No, but who cares? Actually, everyone. That's who, because these characters are actually singing how they feel. The other songs are fine, a lot of them are kind of nothing, but they don't drag at any point. Speaking of Easter though, and it's weird I don't really think about this in regards to Christmas, but I gotta add, the more they say Easter in this, the more I think about Pooh having to learn about the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. Rabbit gets a couple songs in this film, the first one being What You'd Expect, a ballsy song about the Easter agenda.
Be aware to start to prepare to commence to get ready to begin.
It's fun, featuring the 100 Acre Wood Gang all singing over each other, a bit I always enjoy. But again, this type of song is pretty typical for Rabbit across the series. His second one though, a happy little jam showing how much he's changed his attitude in the end, very fulfilling and honestly a top tier Rabbit moment.
They won't believe it's true. I know exactly what to do. We're gonna sing, we're gonna laugh, we're gonna dance.
I've noticed there's a lot of Tigger songs across these films. This one he sings to Roo isn't exactly memorable, but he's getting a lot of tunes across this series. Very few of which actually make a real impact, besides the one you're definitely thinking of right now.
Their tops are made out of rubber, and their bottoms cast. Their bottoms are made out of spring.
He's kind of like the anti-Pooh in that way, where I feel like Pooh doesn't get the spotlight for solo songs enough, but when he does, they rock. But also, to be fair, his song in this film is about sneezing.
I close my eyes and wiggle my nose. I itch and scrunch my face.
It was cute though, I liked it. I liked the funny sneezing fat bear song. But besides Tigger, besides Rabbit, besides Roo, hell, besides even cracked out ass Pooh looking for honey in places it would never exist, the narrator was shockingly another highlight of this picture. As much as we've seen him and the book itself featured in these stories, this is the first time the narrator has felt like a fully fleshed out character, quipping with Rabbit throughout the film and even popping up as the scary-ass ghost of Easter future once the Christmas Carol plot starts.
These are the pages that have not yet been written.
He's the perfect amount of spooky for Pooh. Speaking of spooky, after watching so many of these films, seeing everyone's house eerily empty was pretty haunting. I'd like to see Blood and Honey do something like that. I still haven't watched those. I'm dreading watching those films. This movie is also the best example we've seen since Many Adventures of using the book itself as part of the story, fitting perfectly into that Christmas Carol narrative and providing an awesome backdrop for those dramatic Tigger and Rabbit scenes. Not to sound like a nerd, but anytime we get a tribute to Pooh's storybook roots, it warms my cold little heart. The misunderstanding of finding the stashed Easter decorations and thinking Rabbit forgot instead of keeping them away on purpose is on the better end of 100 Acre Wood misunderstandings, especially ones that don't involve not knowing a word and or listening to Al's pretentious ass. This may be called Springtime with Roo, but folks, like I mentioned earlier, this here is the Rabbit Show, which is very exciting for a bossy old grump like me. This movie is an amazing look into his personality flaws and how those affect his relationships with the other 100 Acre Wood characters. He's dynamic, he changes, but the whole time he still stayed true to Rabbit. Even when he learned his lesson at the end, he chose to take a moment to be a little ass and scare everyone before he was eventually sweet. That seemed weird to me at first, but he's not the Grinch here. His heart didn't grow 3 sizes that day. Rabbit is a human being. Well, a rabbit, with flaws still, despite the lessons he's learned. Plus, honestly, pretty sick nasty prank when you think about it, actually. Also, it's very cute when Rue does it back to him right before they hug at the end of the movie.
You can't have Easter. What I mean is, you can't have Easter without this.
Rabbit's honestly so perfect for that Ebenezer Scrooge role. I'm not even a sucker for the Christmas Carol story like that. I actually think it's a fairly overrated Muppets movie. Angry comment away, go ahead, I'll wait. Maybe I'll even do a video for y'all to dislike like it's a Deltarune theory. But this is such a perfect combination of that classic story and one of the most interesting characters in the 100 Acre Wood. Rabbit here is the most outwardly dramatic I've seen a Pooh character act, the cartoon characters at least, but he nails it. Give this man an Oscar. The emotional beats with him had me bawling my eyes out, and the score was there for all of it.
We never meant to hurt you, Rabbit. We were just trying to give Roo a happy Easter. I mean, didn't you want to give him a happy Easter too?
Go away, Tigger. I want to be alone.
And like I've said before, that level of emotional investment isn't easy to do if Pooh and or Christopher Robin aren't on the screen. When everybody's Easter stuff is gone, it hits so hard. And that's not just the melancholy nostalgia combined with the unknown of moving on in life that hits hard in films like Mini Adventures and Grand Adventure. This isn't about just missing your childhood here. This is a character dissection that examines how one's selfish behavior and short-sightedness can ruin their relationships with the people around them. That's a level of complexity and precision working so well that we've only seen in Finder Keeper. Not even depressing ass adult-oriented Christopher Robin strays that far from the classic Pooh tear-jerking notes, still being so much about that lost childhood wonder.
Christopher Robin, it's you. Played again.
Also, again, this might just be me seeing myself in the curmudgeon Rabbit, but I think they do a great job of making you feel sorry for old Long Ears despite how rude he's been to everyone else the whole movie. His relationship with Tigger is of course the meat and potatoes of this film, being encompassed perfectly in that conversation about rainbows.
All the colors are in their proper order.
Well, maybe this is a different kind of rainbow.
There's only one kind of rainbow, Tigger. The right kind.
We even get Rabbit doing a pounce near the end of the movie. Now that is cinema. I also like that the writers knew how important Rabbit x Tigger was, properly hyping it up when it comes time for our bouncy friend to use his power of persuasion on his bunny buddy. But I've ranted enough about Rabbit and Tigger's friendship in this video. That's why I was so happy we got so much Roo and Tigger together in this picture. That little bro, big bro dynamic was adorable here, and it even directly affected the aforementioned pairing of Rabbit and Tigger. I also loved seeing Roo pounce Tigger when he was sad. Very cute little reflection of their friendship. And Kanga must have done such a good job of raising this little fella. See, I got you. You thought I was gonna do a pervy thing. No, she's a great mother. Because Roo already knows what the holidays are all about, and we're not even halfway through the movie.
I don't mind if we never hunt for eggs, Mama. I just want to give everybody a happy Easter.
I could see it coming off as quote-unquote baby, but I like that refreshing take instead of the hyperactive kid being socially unaware. That's the kind of thing that does a good job of distinguishing Roo's character from Tigger's. Also,
he looks really happy.
That's because I drew him like that.
Is the coldest I've ever heard Roo say. Bro is gangster for that one. To me, this movie rocks. To be fair though, I probably also rate it so high because of lowered expectations. This coming after I watched both Roo-centered Heffalump movies, which, spoilers, I'm not too big on. That's why I think I've had this weird nervous excitement about reviewing this film. I want to convey how much I loved it, but I also strangely and hypocritically don't want to set expectations too high. I mean, if this movie was one way— Wait 1 second here. Rabbit kinda got a dumpy. A-tier film. Pooh's Heffalump movie. starting with the name because I forgot to last time. And believe it or not, we're actually back in theaters for this sucker.
Why?
In fact, according to IMDb, it was originally meant to go direct to video, but like so many other Pooh films, plans changed. Did Springtime with Roo rock so hard that they wish they put it in cinemas? Or did they have that much faith in the brand new character of Lumpy?
Everybody calls me Lumpy. Lumpy.
They must have, right? This fat bastard not only got a second movie after this one, but lasted all the way through the My Friends Tigger and Pooh series. I know Kessie got that run in Book of Pooh, but 2 movies and a show? For Lumpy? Not to mention an appearance in Kingdom Goddamn Hearts? That's it. There's only one way to solve this. I want Kessie in Smash Bros.
Come here. That's where I've been all week, doing motion capture and crap.
Yeah, I don't know if you can tell, but I am not a fan of Lumpy. Debuting in this film and completely erasing the legacy of our boy, Junior Heffalump.
Tell me, what happened back there, son?
Well, you see, Papa, we were having a tea party. Me and my friends were
No time to talk now.
When Lumpy first pops up, he's kinda cute, charming even, seemingly adding a good foil to the bravery and hyperactivity of a character like Roo, who's firmly the protagonist of the Pooh franchise during this era. But Lumpy's speaking voice is annoying. Lumpy's singing voice is annoying. Lumpy's actions in this film, annoying.
Morty.
Lumpy to me, conceptually, is annoying. Heffalumps are so much better when they're either not real or at least there's a little mystery behind them. Sure, meeting his mom is cute, and whenever Lumpy spouts out a little factoid about Heffalump culture, it's a fun bit of world building, but not worth sacrificing the scary potential that they use to the fullest in movies like Mini Adventures.
So better be wary, because they come in every shape and size.
I know he's the main character in this bad boy, but Roo feels a little less than here. It might just be my personal opinion on how the character should be portrayed, but he seems a little more careless in Pooh's Heffalump movie compared to something like the previous film. Maybe it's being paired up with the much more timid Lumpy, but now Roo seems a lot closer to the anxiety-inducing personality of someone like Tigger. Not peak Roo in my opinion. Unfortunately, this film and its sequel are the last times we get John Fielder as Piglet. And there are times where you can hear that a little in his performance, but overall he was crushing that Piglet role right up until when he passed away, which was actually just 4 months after this movie released. R.I.P. to an absolute legend. Such a unique and iconic voice and such an underrated part of what makes those early Pooh films so cozy and relatable.
Oh, that's his name up there. Trespassers Will. That's short for Trespassers William.
But as far as the other characters in Pooh's Heffalump movie, we do get some decent Rabbit and Tigger moments, with the 2 even getting a song warning Roo Boy about the dangers of Heffalumps. That track starts kind of slow, but once the Dumbo-ass pink Heffalump sequence starts, it really turns things up a notch.
It drops here and there.
And it stops to and fro.
It's got 3 horns above.
And 11 below.
Plus, from a purely wholesome point of view, I like how much Kanga we get in such a Roo-centered movie. She even sings a little bit, and it's sweet. It means something. But we do have to deal with naked Roo during the number, and I hate that. They do that so much in these movies. It's fucking weird. My arch nemesis, Carly Simon, who apparently named Lumpy, hate her even more now. She does come in to take over the song from Kanga, but I'm glad we got anything at all from this baddie. No, not that baddie. Yeah, that baddie. But this is honestly the first picture where I was excited to hear the rando coming in and taking the songs from the 100 Acre Wood gang. Because that means I'm not subject to as much singing from Lumpy. Seriously, barely any Christopher Robin, complete gopher erasure. We don't even get Al for the first time in any of these pictures. And we're stuck with Lumpy? Somebody freaking keyblade me, Jesus Christ. I've also seen people point out the lack of Eeyore in this, but honestly, he does get one of my favorite bits in the whole movie. I will say, there's one single time, where Lumpy tugs at my heartstrings, When he wants to give up looking for his mom and Rue is there for his friend singing a cute little reprise. Wait, is it reprise or reprise? Did I say it wrong earlier? Am I a stupid hillbilly? Don't answer that. Singing a cute little reprise of what Kanga sang to him earlier. That hit pretty hard for me despite my anti-Lumpy sentiments. Lumpy's dialogue leading into that song was definitely aided by the score, which continues to be a strong suit of Pooh media, even in the weaker films. I think that about covers it as far as the music, except the Disney Wiki says there's music with Usher, Outkast, and D12? God, I hate these fandom sites so much. If I had 2 bullets and was stuck in a room with Lumpy and Jimmy Fandom, the creator of fandom, I'd use them both on myself. As far as Pooh, he's got a nice hat and goggles, plus his narration at the beginning is pretty adorable.
This is one of my favorite Once Upon a Times. Although I'm not quite sure which time it was once upon.
The way I feel about Lumpy's mom is the exact opposite of how I feel about Lumpy. I love the heavy tension in the air whenever she's around. She is what a Heffalump should be in the Pooh series. I know her personality and motivations would be non-existent without Lumpy, but I just think they did a really good job with her as a character, wonderfully balancing that sense of dread with all those cute, heartwarming Winnie the Pooh feelings. And I'm glad Lumpy found his call. I mean, I wasn't rooting against the guy. Good gracious, I'm not a sicko. When it comes to the animation, despite this being in theaters, the quality doesn't really seem that far off from Springtime with Rue, meaning it's fine, but mostly lacks the fluidity of something like New Adventures, or the creativity of something like the Tigger movie. The characters here aren't very expressive, outside of a few select scenes.
I'd like to see a Heffalump try and breach these defenses.
It's impressive, Rabbit.
This movie might have similar animation to Springtime with Rue, but man, it does not have the plot or performances to carry it like SWR has. Y'all like that acronym, don't you? No big deal, just Pooh superfan stuff.
I'm just using slang, guys.
The themes of perspective and fearing the unknown are pretty solid. I think especially during a scary time like the early 2000s, learning not to hate someone because of who they are or where they're from is pretty important. Unless they're Lumpy. Hate away on that purple head. I also, of course, like how the ravine with all the scary looking logs in it comes into play a couple times during the movie, including the climax. It's not quite on the level as the river in Piglet's big movie, but I'm all for anything that makes the 100-acre woods seem like an intimate, realistically laid out setting. But as a whole, I can see why this had the worst performing box office of any Winnie the Pooh theatrical release. C-tier film, going just below Book of Pooh. Kissy Supremacy, long live our queen. I can't believe she's just lost to history and we're just stuck with this corny motherfucker. Bro has got to be the most annoying character in the entire Winnie the Pooh canon. I really hope we don't have to see him again. I have 6 pages of notes for this goddamn movie. For Pooh's Heffalump Halloween movie. Why? I wrote Rabbit is just like Brian from Family Guy at one point. What does that even mean?
Whoa, assohoy.
Alright, let me start with the obvious. Lumpy, still annoying. Very annoying. Every emotional beat he has in this film is forced and rushed. He's dumb to the point of annoying, and continues to devolve Rue into the poor man's Tigger, a personality not suited for the main character of a story. But there are fleeting moments, just a couple quick seconds, where he's a little more likable than in the first film. Like this bit. I'll have you know that made me exhale out of both my nostrils, plus his laugh occasionally makes me giggle. But every time he'd do something sweet, he'd pull me right back out of the moment by doing some typical annoying lumpy bullshit His song with Rue, though, Brave Together, is probably the best Lumpy moment we ever get. It's not a solo song, so it's not too much Lumpy, and Lumpy's voice doesn't just drown out the person he's singing with, which tends to happen and can make tracks with him unbearable.
It's never the same, never the same. Add a sound, add a doodle, now you've got a name that's brand new.
No, Brave Together is a duet between best friends with pretty cute lyrics and that thing where characters kind of sing over each other in a circle.
We can do it forever, we'll be together.
I don't know what that's called. Somebody who's a music nerd, tell me in the comments. But only tell me once. If you see somebody else has already said it, don't go commenting that shit like 3 more times, okay? It doesn't overstay its welcome either, something pretty important when dealing with a voice as grating as Lumpy's. What I really like about the track, though, is the fact that it comes back later in the score, during those moments where Lumpy and Rue are really depending on each other. Almost makes this feel like a real movie, huh? That might seem mean, but I swear the only part of this film that doesn't have bad pacing and oblivion-ass dialogue is the 20 minutes it takes to just straight up play Boo to You, Winnie the Pooh, a New Adventures-based Halloween special that debuted on ABC nearly a decade before this movie was released. Hey everybody, Editing Killian here. I realized that the ABC Halloween special is actually called Boo to You 2. Boo to You, Winnie the Pooh is a book. So, I'm sorry I brought shame to myself and my family and everyone I know. Now, to be fair, I'm inclined to attribute this to the strength of the New Adventures series, more so than how mid and weirdly overexposed the Pooh series was as a whole at this time. But both those reasons, and of course the obvious, budget, were probably behind that decision. I mean, unlike other pieces of New Adventures-based media, this special won a 1997 Primetime Emmy, going to storyboarder Phil Weinstein, who worked on a number of different Pooh projects. Boo to You, Winnie the Pooh has all the elements of the New Adventures series that I love. Gorgeous, fun animation, adorable character interactions.
Oh, but Piglet, Halloween without you would be like... It would be like
last year, and the year before last year.
Then the year before that year.
Jokes that make me laugh.
Of all my favorite holidays, Halloween isn't.
And a couple songs that absolutely slap, including what might be my favorite Tigger song.
Unspeakable, spookables, awful, unlookables, gallop, but ghosties and goblins galore.
And what is definitely my favorite Piglet song.
I don't have one scary feature. A timid, small, and frightened creature.
In fact, I Want to Scare Myself, that Tigger song, was also nominated for a Primetime Emmy that year, losing to a song from The Simpsons.
Our only major quarrel's with your total lack of morals.
Our skimpy costumes ain't so bad. They seem to entertain your dad.
Which is a banger. I get it. Again, unfortunately, no owl in this, but it containing a New Adventure special, of course, also means the return of our all-American hero, Gopher. I love the bit where he dresses up as everybody, and it pairs perfectly with the classic Gopher falls into his own hole gag, which I scream like a child every time he does it. It's so funny to me. Watch. That is classic. I am surprised nobody got scared at the end of the special, though, when Gopher popped up wearing the jackety-lantern costume with the big carrot fangs. I guess the squad learned their lesson pretty quick, because I would have been scared than a mug. Despite my love for this Halloween special, I do not like how it's set up. The plot comes to a screeching halt, albeit with Lumpy realistically hiding once they reach their destination. But they could have set it up so much better. I've heard people suggest that Piglet should have gave this lesson to Lumpy directly, but I got a better idea. Let's just watch Boo to You instead. How's that sound? Plus, the animation difference between the special and the movie is drastic. They try to darken the palette of the film right before they transition over to Boo to You, but while I don't think a child or a hammered Killian would notice, it stands out like a sore thumb to me when I watch it back. We're talking about the most stiff Pooh 2D animation would ever look, compared to one of the most expressive 90s cartoons I can think of. And it really seems like the New Adventures team went all out for this Halloween special too. I mean, check out what they did here. Whoa! Plus, we get a new Adventures version of that Tigger gasp I mentioned earlier. Look how expressive that is. God, I love this television program. They do a decent job with continuity between the special and the movie. Rue explaining his absence in Boo to You as him and Kanga not moving in yet, and the consistent use of the term spookables is a nice touch. Even though spookables does sound like an emo in-log version of Squishmallows. Two things that are pretty consistent between the vastly different parts of the film though are the backgrounds and the score. The watercolor looking backgrounds, accented beautifully by those pretty fall colors, could really hold its own with any piece of Pooh media. And while at times a little overwhelming in the New Adventures section of the film, the score is solid throughout the entire movie and works hard to grip you emotionally, as much as one can be emotionally gripped to a character like Lumpy. But nice backgrounds and a decent score in a Winnie the Pooh movie is like good music in a Sonic game. It goes without saying. Maybe it's me taking those elements for granted, but this film doesn't win too many points for those alone. Same with the music, honestly, like the first song of the movie is ass. Zero momentum. No pacing. Everybody's voice just sounds kind of irritating. Imagine somebody's voice being irritating. It could never be me. I mean, 3 out of 4 good songs is a pretty solid batting average, but it's not enough to bail out this film. Good music can't save Frozen 2, and it's not gonna save Pooh's Heffalump Halloween movie either. This picture is constantly shifting between cute and scary, which you can definitely do. Grand Adventure proves that. But in this movie, there is a lot of back and forth. And that inconsistent tone doesn't help the already rough pacing. But I've been mean enough. There are elements of this film that I enjoy, like the cute little costumes we see everyone in, especially the ones near the end. I'm always a sucker for Super Tigger, and even though it's not mentioned in the script at all, with John Fielder passing just before this movie came out, Piglet as an angel really hits close to my heart. I also like that the gabloon isn't real. I can't state the importance of imagination enough in the Winnie the Pooh series as both antagonists and motivation. And the gabloon fits right in with the likes of the Baxen, the Scolosaurus, and the original idea of Heffalumps. Why are the racist ass crows from Dumbo here though? Y'all think you could just slap those suckers in there and I wouldn't notice? In today's climate? Maybe that's what's keeping it off Disney Plus, not just the fact that it's, you know, terrible. Like it barely even grants us the courtesy of some Rabbit X Tigger.
And there's no such thing as a gabloon.
You are so wrong, Long-Ears.
Tigger?
Rabbit?
Lunatic?
Long-Ears? Wrong you are, Long-Ears.
Plus Rabbit volunteering to just go with Tigger? Exciting for us, but why would he want to? And is it just me? Or does Rabbit's jackety-lantern look like Richard Nixon? But I'm getting into some CinemaSins type nitpicks now, and I do not want to waste any more time on this half-ass picture. D tier, the weakest showing yet. But because of the Boo to You special, still better than some upcoming stinkers they put out. Which is honestly shocking to me considering how lumpy focused this is. I mean, why is there even a Heffalump around? Heffalumps are mean. Heffalumps are scary. In fact, I've decided to catch a Heffalump. Pooh nodded his head several times as he said this, and waited for Piglet to say how, or Pooh, you couldn't, or something helpful of that sort. But Piglet said nothing. The fact was, Piglet was wishing that he had thought about it first, and wished that Killian had never agreed to review all 17 Winnie the Pooh films. But it wasn't Killian's fault, Piglet thought. It was your fault. The viewer. If it wasn't for you, Killian would never have to review these movies. So if you're gone, I'm finally free! Ugh. So I talked about this in my Bluey vs. Blue video. Go watch that, by the way, because nobody has. But I despise this gross-ass 3D kids show style. Especially when they bastardize an existing character with a 2D design that's already timeless. And I know I've been using animation and art style pretty interchangeably in this video, and I'm sure real animation fans have been roasting me in the comments already. But when I say this animation sucks, I mean the art style and the animation both suck. And it's not just the hideous 3D animation that makes this feel like baby's first poo. I'm done with the poo puns, I'm not acknowledging that one. No, it's also the talking to the camera Dora the Explorer thing that they constantly do in this version of Pooh. Especially the brand new character of Darby, played by a young Chloe Tom and Jerry lady. Now, I had no clue who this was. The character, I mean, not the actor. I am familiar with funny Tom and Jerry lady from her work on Tom and Jerry.
Oh wow, this is so detailed.
But even after watching a few episodes and Googling a few things, I was left even more confused than before. She's Christopher Robin's best friend? Isn't she like way younger than him? That didn't seem weird to anyone making the show, but also like I've never heard that factoid mentioned anywhere in the media itself, so it's kind of hard to say. But to me, it would make more sense if she was Christopher Robin's cousin or little sister or something. Not only would it be less strange, but it would also explain Darby playing with C-Rob's stuffed animals, justifying her relationship with Pooh and the 100 Acre Wood Gang. Also, why does the sign over Pooh's house say Mr. Saunders instead of Sanders? What in the Mandela effect is going on here? This is one they tried to get over on us, it just didn't take. People care more about Pooh than hot dogs and other children's book bears, apparently. Another big change for this film is the addition of Travis Oates as Piglet. Oates filled in here and there for Fielder in the last film, but this is his first full role as Piglet after Fielder's death. And honestly, I'm not crazy about the voice he does for it. I'm sure it's me being so used to Fielder's unique performance, but Oates' Piglet doesn't just sound different and off, but it kind of sounds forced at times.
Oh, Tigger, your mask!
And I know what you're thinking. K-Mac, baby, Piglet's voice is tough. Getting that one-of-a-kind blend of fearful, charming, and cute can't be easy. Not like we can just roll with Chucky Finster's voice actor or something like that, but that's where you're wrong. Not about the Chucky Finster voice, no clue what that person's up to, but Piglet's voice isn't hard. Watch this. I'm gonna nail this even with a sore throat. Alright, ready? Oh jeez, I don't know about this one, Rick. Oh no, I'm really worried. Oh jeez, Rick. Morty. What else does Morty say? Oh jeez, oh science, Rick. There's a portal, Rick. Oh shit, I don't want to put the seeds in my ass, Rick. Morty. They also added this dog to the mix, a character I can never remember exists. Morty Summer, that's my sister, Morty. Oh, and there's a beaver, and a porcupine, and a turtle, and Lumpy's still here, a heffalump. And despite that, they still say,
Last one, there's a woozle. You're a woozle.
Hold up. Didn't heffalumps occupy that same subspecies less than place in people's minds just a few movies ago? I don't need every single lesson to roll over movie to movie, but Lumpy is right there. Rue even calls him Lumpster and everything. Those films are clearly canon. Whatever, I can't give myself gray hairs over lumpy inconsistencies, but I just wanted you to know that I know. Another character they fumble in this is Holly the reindeer, and that's just on aesthetics alone. I'm supposed to feel sorry for this freak, but it looks uncanny and out of place bad in the 100 Acre Wood. I think I'd rather see this thing get freaking cabellaed. Also, way too dumb to operate an aircraft. I do love what they did with Rabbit here. They made him obsessed with Santa's planning and logistics, which is very on brand for old long ears. And speaking of Santa, why the hell does he sound so goddamn normal?
There's still a chance we can make all our Christmas deliveries, but there's a lot of lost time to make up for.
There's barely any booming jolliness, even when Christmas is saved. Wait a second. It's Jeffrey Tambor? I knew normal-ass Frank Claus over here sounded familiar.
No touching! No touching!
I haven't mentioned the plot at all yet, but that's because every time I think there's going to be a main conflict, the issue gets solved within a minute. That never let them know your next move type shit. until we finally start trekking to the North Pole. Then the story gets a little direction. But up until that point, the plot is, I don't know, Christmas?
You mean you never even asked Sandy for anything? Oh, donkey boy, that is the saddest thing I never heard.
There were a few positives with this goddamn travesty, though. Coming into this after watching a few episodes of the actual series, I did notice how good of a job they did at making this feel different and special, while still staying true to that show's format. And I like that they made Pooh's thinking motion a thing.
Let's see. Think. Which direction is the North Pole?
Sweet little bit there. Honestly, the movie and the series as a whole could use more of that kind of stuff. Stuff that feels very Pooh. I also think they nailed Tigger's presentation in this movie. Despite it being for stupid dumb baby brains, his jokes still hit.
Whoa, this present sounds like a Sluther Sirene.
Tigger! That is the Sluther Siren.
Oh, well, why would somebody want to wrap me up one of those? I mean, we already got one.
I'm sure part of that can be attributed to the fact that Jim Cummings loves to improvise as Tigger, according to his podcast, way more often than he does as Pooh. Especially, I'm sure, as he got comfortable and developed within the role.
But aren't you the man that ad-libs everything anyway?
Not as much with Winnie the Pooh, but definitely Tigger. Pooh's a little more like the steady stream going through the woods. Pooh's the eye of the storm, Tigger is the storm.
And I think that wit, always ready to go, is part of what makes Tigger such a strong, undeniable supporting character. Darby's little speech about perseverance? Adorable. And the piano right after that is a highlight of the score, which overall isn't that memorable, especially compared to most Pooh films. As far as the actual songs, some of them are fine, pretty cute, usually not overstaying their welcome.
With rainy deer a-flying, Santa won't be here till dark.
But a lot of the time the singing just kind of pops up out of nowhere. None of that emotional elevation we talked about earlier that's needed to go from speaking to singing. And that isn't helped by the random ass show tune song that feels so bizarre and out of place. Not to bring up this series in regards to music and midness again, but the randomness of it all reminded me of that Trolls song from the first Frozen movie.
So he's a bit of a fixer-upper.
And on top of that, it comes from characters we know nothing about. But honestly, kind of slaps, so I'm chilling.
Welcome to the friendliest, jingliest, creepiest, tinseliest place on the globe.
And why do we get a jump scare from the snowman? What's up with this air of Pooh and all these jump scares? First the moon and Lumpy's Halloween hoedown, and now this?
Hello?
Horrifying. Made double scary by how terrible the animation is in this film. D-tier movie. It's better than it has any business being, with surprisingly funny jokes. The 3D style is so ugly though. And I don't think every children's show should have to talk directly to the camera. I didn't even like that shit as a kid. I'd sit there silent, waiting for them to hurry up with the program.
Is Boots' heart here?
In reality, me and Winnie the Pooh on Disney Plus seems to be, in the very small amount I digested, the level of baby brain stuff I was expecting out of Super Sleuths. 2-minute content on a streaming service is wild to me. Big picture though, not crazy about this Christmas movie overall, but I'm glad my low expectations let me be a little pleasantly surprised.
Aurora Borealis.
My Friends Tigger and Pooh and a Musical Too. Kind of a run-on sentence for the title there, huh? Alright, it's starting off pretty cute. I'm not really into the whole 3D animation, but I'm starting to get kind of, hold up, who is that? It's the beaver I mentioned in the last review, of course, but who is he? What's his story? What's he doing here? And most importantly, where's Gopher? Whatever, none of that's important. I can review the movie without knowing every single little detail about the universe. Right, guys? Guys? To get to the real bottom of those questions, we have to go all the way back to 1955. That's right, I'm doing the video essay thing. Gopher, who like we said wasn't in the original books, was actually just Mr. Busy, the beaver from Lady and the Tramp. They reused his model and even recycled a lot of his animations in Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Tree. Those two even sounded pretty similar.
Gotta slide this sycamore to the swamp.
Now all these years later, 52 years to be specific, the tides have turned and it seems like a beaver has replaced Gopher. It's funny because Mr. Busy was actually my nickname in college. They've seemingly turned my boy back into a beaver and now he's got a baddie? A John? Oh wait, no, she's with Turtle. Okay, whatever, I don't care. I'm not getting into the ships. That's a different video. But back to Beavergate here, Tigger even mentions Gopher.
I miss Gopher.
So where did our boy go? Why has he been replaced, but nobody seems to worry about it? I know he was a dirty capitalist, but the war crimes were for a good cause, I swear. That's just the free market, baby. In all seriousness, I'm not super familiar with these additional characters, but they seem pretty redundant to me. Not just Beaver being the same as Gopher, but Porcupine's lines and moments could be handled by Kanga, or even Piglet. I'm sure they were important in the episodes they were introduced in during the actual series, but keeping them around bloats the cast in a way you really don't need. A way that we've already been feeling the last few films, especially when some of the 100 Acre Wood gang already share their key traits. At least with Buster the dog, they sold toys of his useless ass. These other random woodland critters seem to be around just to take away from the original cast. That bloat doesn't keep Tigger from being absolutely on fire in this picture though. He's hilarious here. Everyone is, to be honest.
Pooh, that's my honey.
Really? It tastes as good as the bees make, Rabbit.
Plus, we really get a return to form for Rabbit X Tigger.
Well, I'm sorry, Long Ears, but if I can't bounce, there's not much else for me to do, is there? You can do whatever you want. Clean your house, make pottery, anything. As long as you leave me alone.
It's always a plus when they lean on that dynamic, and it's really the subject of the entire story here. Focusing on Rabbit in general is always a good idea. He's one of the most flawed 100 Acre Wood characters there is, despite his big heart and despite how much he really cares. And it's a lot easier to teach a lesson about how bossy Rabbit is than how pretentious Owl is. I mean, 90% of the time we see Bunny Boy, he's yelling at somebody. Which, like, was it a good idea to make him mayor? People listen to him anyway, even when he's wronger than a mug. I don't know if we should have gave him an official title, but hey. That's politics. Also, who was Rabbit running against? Did they have a song prepared too if they won?
A splendid 100 Acre Wood this will be. Just a few simple rules to follow to a T, and what a splendid 100 Acre Wood this will be.
And everyone already knows Rabbit's song? That seems like collusion to me. But hey, that's politics. Rabbit's little song is solid, a pretty good time. To my unrefined palate, it feels very Family Guy. It does go a little long, but it's a musical. It's to be expected. Which I guess means we should probably cover the rest of the songs, starting at the jump with One Big Happy Family.
One big happy family.
It's annoying. The structure where everyone's singing, bouncing around every word, it's too much. As easily as it gets stuck in my head, I'm not happy about it. I do like how they use the track later in the film, though. Rabbit trying to sing it without the other half of the 100 Acre Wooders, and it's somehow sucking worse? Pretty creative. And when Tigger's crew tries, they can't even get the song going.
Big, happy...
You... What? You...
All that emotional investment they worked so hard to earn means I actually care about this annoying ass song when it comes back in the end, even though they repeat the exact shots in both versions of the song, even within both times they sing it. Lazier than shit. Wait for my neighbors to stop playing this goddamn techno music. Oh shit, they're playing the jam. Do you think you're better off alone? When it comes time for Tigger to sing, as usual, he's hit or miss. But the hits absolutely hit. One of the best Tigger tracks ever here.
Bouncing is what Tiggers do the best.
And the forgettable stuff doesn't really stick around long enough to be annoying. Over the course of these films, our boy is really earning his name in that title. We even get a Rabbit and Tigger duet that wonderfully showcases their relationship and can't even be ruined by Piglet's smoker voice.
Time to stop bouncing now, Tigger. I mean it.
Is that how I sound? Well, sometimes.
This soundtrack is excellent. Top to bottom, not many stinkers at all. We have so many bangers on this OST. I'm not too bothered when a rando comes in to take over singing for Pooh during his song.
I couldn't.
Underneath the same sky.
Wait a second. This guy coming in to sing here is apparently Andy Sturmer, but on the radio version of this track, radio version, bold. On the radio version of this track, we get Kenny Loggins? What's the deal with that? He too good to duet with Pooh? All those Pooh songs for decades and decades, and you can't even hop in the booth with our boy? That can't be on him. Whose call was that? Would have never happened if our boy Mikey Eisner was still in charge here. Say what you want about that fella, but he loved Pooh.
Michael Eisner, former CEO of Disney, said, "I just want you to know that Winnie the Pooh far outsells Mickey Mouse."
But back to the picture and on to the animation. I know what you're expecting. You're ready for me to all over how this looks, and you're right. I'm not thrilled with it. It's ugly. But I gotta say, there are some shots that are very creative. And oftentimes those are shots that could probably only be pulled off in a cartoon that looks like this. So that rocks, using it to the fullest extent of its potential. It's a little too much at times, the character's kind of looking weightless, but on a positive note, the pudding doesn't look too much like Dookie, which is good. The pottery though, we're not so lucky. But when it comes to the weird 3D animation as a whole, I'm honestly excusing it. Not just because of the aforementioned creativity in regards to how they utilize the format, but it's also because the script and the story, they're strong. Kind of a more extreme example of the stiffness but great character acting we found in another all-time Rabbit showcase, Springtime with Roo. We're also lucky enough to see that art style switch up during parts of the film, like during Tigger's bouncing song. Personally though, I would have loved the change in art style to be more a tribute to the classic storybook Pooh style. Missed opportunity there in my opinion, but I do realize I sound like the Winnie the Pooh version of this guy.
Boy, I really hope somebody got fired for that blunder.
As far as the plot, loved it. I can't believe I'm saying this about my friends Tigger and Pooh, and I certainly won't recap it beat for beat, but the story is a stellar look at the political divide.
All this line does is make people argue with each other. I guess we'll just have to walk right down the middle.
This came out in 2010? Yeah, I don't think the kids were paying attention to this part. The two parties hating each other even caused supply chain issues at one point. I can't believe The Simpsons predicted the future like this. The actual lesson of the film though? Not executed perfectly, seemingly being that lying to citizens is fine as long as it's in the name of uniting everyone. That's interesting.
Now watch this drive.
It did work rather well, didn't it?
But I guess most of Rabbit's lessons are kind of toxic, huh? B tier. B minus, really. Going right below the Tigger movie. The animation being the obvious difference between the two. But this is a fun script. Everyone's characterizations are on point. Great dynamics, fun songs. I could listen to them on their own for the most part. There's also way less talking to the audience in this one. But like I said, that ugly 3D animation keeps it from being any higher on the list. I know animation shortcuts are all over the history of Pooh, like using Mr. Busy's model from Lady and the Tramp like we discussed earlier in this review, but recycling the exact same shots like 4 or 5 times feels significantly cheaper than that. Feels like that kind of thing should honestly make it even lower in the ranking. But man, I found this movie as a whole so entertaining. I can't help but put it up there with some of the best the franchise has to offer. Oh, what? You were expecting a joke at the end here? You want me to just slap something on there for your sake? For your entertainment? I got nothing else to say. I'm not just gonna sing and dance for you. This isn't My Friends Tigger and Pooh and also Killian 2 as well and a musical 3. Finally, here we are. The last movie based on My Friends Tigger and Pooh. The last time I got a look at this hideous 3D animation, and the last time I got to deal with Lumpy.
What do we do now?
Super duper super sleuths. Christ, that name is worse than the last one. Instead of stealing the DVD copy from the evil depths of the dark web, like I did with this footage, I decided to watch the Disney Plus version of this picture, which is 2 episodes within the My Friends Tigger and Pooh series itself. But then, I of course had to cross-reference that with the original DVD version to see if there were any differences when it dropped on Playhouse Disney just a few days after the straight-to-video release. The only real difference I noticed, and correct me in the comments if I'm wrong here, but the television series includes chapter names that kind of ruin some of the tension. But honestly, the tension in general feels pretty out of place. A glowing space rock with actual magical powers? Not imaginary powers that we know of, real powers. Magic in the 100-acre wood. Looking at it unbiasedly though, this is the kind of weird thing that my nostalgia would excuse from New Adventures. That series got pretty strange, so let me hold my judgment here. Besides, the actual powers themselves? Pretty fun. I like that each veggie corresponds to its own superpower. Carrots help you see, spinach makes you strong, the potato makes you an alcoholic. Tigger with superpowers though, and no sense of how to control them? That sounds just about as scary as something could get in the 100-acre wood. Besides, of course, this.
I just discovered the last little honeypot, much to my delight.
But just imagine if that super spinach strength he got translated to his lower body as well. Think about the damage superpowered bouncing would cause. Big nuclear sinkholes. When it comes to his sense of humor though, our orange stripedy friend does have his moments.
Yesterday, all my vegetables were normal sized. And today, well, I simply don't know what to make of it.
Well, I'd go with vegetable soup. In a really big pot, you know.
But Pooh is really the one on fire here, proving why it was his series to begin with some solid one-liners.
Why, Rabbit, your garden fence seems to have shrunk.
Plus, our boy looked very funny peeking through those binoculars. We also get a fair amount of Rabbit with his reaction to seeing the giant vegetables, probably being the most expressive I've seen this animation get. But that's where the positives end when it comes to how this cartoon looks. They get new costumes when they power up, and they are super duper lame. I guess giving them a cape like on the cover would have been too expensive to animate, so we're stuck with this tinfoil hat ass insulation bullshit. And I hate when it's time for a song and they suddenly get thrust into this weird video game cutscene space. That same kind of spot from Sonic Lost World.
Why are you still here?
And the songs themselves are very forgettable. At times absolutely shattering the pacing.
Now's the time to think. When you have a problem, think.
The story wraps up pretty nicely, I guess, a little predictable with the meteor's powers fading mid-crisis. But I do like how they brought the pulley back from earlier in the story. Definitely didn't see that coming. But yeah, I don't really know what else to say about this one.
I'm sick of superheroes!
Yeah. I really am. I guess if it was a little more imaginative, both literally and within the story, maybe had some banger tunes, some funnier jokes, I'd forgive the lazy animation and the weird out-of-place plot points. But it doesn't. So I don't. And the superhero thing feels more like obligatory cultural zeitgeist than creative choice for the sake of creativity. Plus, the lots of talking right to the viewer children's show thing is back in full swing here.
What kind of superpower would you like to have?
D-tier film.
Stinky movie!
But in honor of the last time we'll ever see Lumpy, until Blood and Honey 3 of course, here's him saying a slur in Heffalump.
Oh, Huffle.
Winnie the Pooh, or to make it less confusing, Sonic 06. I mean Winnie the Pooh 2011. Gotta start with the obvious here, the animation is beautiful. What a palate cleanser after all that modern 3D nonsense. Besides many adventures, an aesthetic impossible to top in my opinion, this is the best Pooh has ever looked. Masterfully hand-drawn with so much care put in to capture the spirit of old school Pooh. Directors Stephen J. Anderson and Don Hall hired Bernie Mattison, the man who originally animated Kangaroo, Tigger, and Rabbit, as a story supervisor. He was there to make sure the team captured all the little nuances of the 100 Acre Wood characters, and he did a stellar job.
I would always pass stuff by Bernie, and I was doing some model sheets of the character, and he said, well, those are pretty good, but you forgot his goatee. And I went, oh, you're right, he's got this little goatee right here under his lip.
Hence why we get that classic Pooh fuzzy belly, fuzzy belly, fuzzy belly, fuzzy belly. And the backgrounds here, breathtaking. That sketchy line art and watercoloring that evokes such nostalgic feelings towards the 100 Acre Wood. The team wasn't afraid to use modern technology in this either though, but not as a crutch. Only really to enhance and add to the animation.
We actually animated the backs in ink on paper, and then the effects artists found ways to actually translate that into the chalk texture. I had done some experimenting with it in Photoshop.
In my opinion, the only time modernity really gets in the way is the Christopher Robin redesign. The big Disney eyes don't really fit with the other characters. He looks goofy. He's a goofy little bastard in this. And it doesn't have anything to do with the review, but oh my god, this dude points out the Rabbit Nixon thing. I knew I was onto something with that.
When Rabbit was really, really cheesed off, I would give him an expression arrived at by one of our famous presidents. I am not a crook.
But yeah, instead of hitting the classic, did you know the last 2D anime Princess and the Frog? I'm gonna instead focus on appreciating what we have with this film, and cross my fingers that maybe it inspires something similar down the road one day.
Oh no!
Not just the animation, but the songs and the story itself are everything we love about vintage Pooh media. The coziness, the charm, but enough humor and expressiveness to fit right in with the best cartoons of that era. Tom Kenny, the new voice of Rabbit, who sounds a little too much like SpongeBob for me, but it's fine. He puts it really well when he says,
It just reminds you of all the stuff you liked about the original stuff. There are no parodies, there are no, anything like that. It's all new
It's also
stuff.
not jarringly modern. You know what I mean? That's what I like. It's still in touch, but it's not like, hey, here's the Pooh Fighters.
Not only do we get Tom Kenny as the new Rabbit, but we get Craig Ferguson as the new Owl, who's probably my favorite version of the character, leading an all-time banger Pooh track.
Its toes are black, its fur is blue. I swear that all I tell you is not made up. The Backson! The Backson!
There's new casting all over the place, except of course Jim Cummings as Pooh and Tigger. I think Dustin Big Dust Wilson still plays Piglet too, but I don't have that in my notes. The recasting of Owl and Rabbit were the ones that really stood out to me though, for better or worse. But speaking of the greatest to ever do it, Jim Cummings says this is the best Pooh film he's ever been in. And who am I to argue with Pooh himself?
Out of all those projects, I gotta tell you, this is the...
A lot of what he loved about the film is the music, which personally, besides the aforementioned Baxton song, I think is fine, but not really as memorable as songs in something like Many Adventures. Which, honestly, the fact this film is even being compared directly to a movie that strong, that says a ton about how I feel towards it. Much like Many Adventures, what really rocks about this music is the perfect balance between the cast singing and random people coming in. This time being Zooey Deschanel.
One day, you'll be cool.
I like that Pooh gets 2 songs, even though neither of them are really anything to write home about. The tummy song is cute, fine, but forgettable. Funny to hear how much the noise from Pooh's belly sounds like Tigger's growl. That's 3 rolls for our boy. Pooh's other song, the honey song, gets kinda outshined by the animation. The song isn't bad, again, it's fine. The animation is just that spectacular. It's got a funny little ending too, but the Tupac version of this song, the mashup by I Am Gemboy, that's the superior version. Dear Honey, look it up. Finish this video first, but look that up after. Tigger's song is another one I think is A-okay, but again, pales in comparison to what's happening on screen, which in this case is the physical comedy. I'm glad we get that little bit of Eeyore and Tigger though, as it does what it can to make up for the lack of Rabger in this bad boy. Because this picture here is a lot like the Muppets 2011. Not just with the year, but they both came out during similar phases for the franchises. The Disney reboot after treading water for most of the aughts. This film has to reintroduce everyone and play the hits, re-establishing who everyone is and what they're all about, which is important, but leaves less time to get into the nuances of relationships. That's why Muppets Most Wanted is better actually. Again, don't worry, we'll get into it. I can't say that the humor in this movie is anything less than top tier though, as it contains the funniest scene, not individual joke, but funniest scene in the entire Pooh series.
Piglet, can you tie a knot?
I cannot.
Ah, so you cannot.
No, I cannot not.
Not?
Who's there?
Pooh?
Pooh who?
No, Pooh with...
Just when you think they can't keep the bit going, it gets funnier and funnier. I can't say enough good things about any scene where they're stuck in the hole. I love how they lean into the absurdity of Al just being able to fly out whenever he wants. Great use of subtlety. Something this movie might have been able to use more of, the only thing resembling anything close to a critique I have for the comedy of this film. Because honestly, it's packed with laugh out loud moments, great wordplay, and all the funny fat bear love honey bits rock. There's also underrated little action sequences, snappy pacing, and great use of fourth wall breaks, again, on the same level as many adventures with the use of the book. And not just for bits either, but it actually matters for the plot itself. So many elements of classic Pooh working together without just feeling like a lazy retelling. So all these positives, this has to be another S tier, right? Wrong. Get a freaking grip, dude. I love this movie. Don't get me wrong. But Pooh choosing to help someone instead of eating doesn't really have the emotional weight of an S tier picture, or really even an A tier picture. It ends with a Pooh is hungry joke. What happened to the themes of growing up and moving on? That's how a good Pooh film should end. I love the goofs and the gags, but it lacked the heart these movies really need. I mean, the Tigger movie doesn't really resonate with me emotionally either, even though it tries really hard. But this movie, it didn't go for those beats at all. To me, it's hard to tell which one is better for the Pooh brand, but I think the latter option makes for a better film, which is why I'm putting Winnie the Pooh 2011 just slightly higher than the Tigger movie. But they're both pretty on par, honestly. As far as being above the Super Sleuths musical, I mean, just look at the two. This is going at the very top of B tier. Gorgeous animation, phenomenal performances, the perfect length for a children's film. That's right, I said it. We need more cartoon movies that don't even last an hour. It does wonders for the pacing. But the movie just kinda ends. And the middle of the road songs don't really do anything to boost the emotions of the film. They're fun, but they're just kinda there for the most part. Oh, and they make the Baxen real in this, which honestly I'm fine with. Just existing as another bit to giggle at after the credits. Plus it was cute seeing the plot reenacted by the plushies right before that. Hands down the least accurate, but best looking these stuffed animals have ever been. But good grief, they really padded out the credits for this runtime. It's like my goddamn Coffee Coke video all over again. You know what? I think this video needs some more filler. Peep Gabe. So in the late 2010s, everybody all of a sudden got a friggin' stick up their booty butts about wanting to do a Christopher Robin movie. In 2017, we got Goodbye Christopher Robin, which I will not be covering, because I wanted to make the number of movies here a good even 17. If Pooh's not up, singing, dancing, walking, and talking, then I'm not interested. The Velma of the Pooh franchise. Maybe I'll review it in a short or something, I don't know. But that leaves us with 2018's live-action Christopher Robin movie, titled Christopher Robin, starring Ewan McGregor as Christopher Robin. I hate starting this off with negativity, and I hate even more to regurgitate a point made by my best friend Douglas P. Walker. But the very first thing I really noticed about this picture is how the CGI versions of these characters look. Don't get me wrong, they're an absolute technical marvel.
374 visual effects shots, and I believe 878 of them had an animated character of some form in them.
And they have to be antique looking and worn to fit into the timeline of the story. But the first time I watched this movie, I couldn't help but think these things were ugly. Call it Stockholm Syndrome, but now seeing this movie so many times, I've really fallen in love with these versions of the characters. Except Tigger. He still looks weird to me. Only one Tigger design I can think of that's worse.
Hello, everyone.
But you can't help but be impressed with how they pulled off that CGI. Actually physically making the plushies and then mimicking them perfectly in full 3D. That's so goddamn cool. Sometimes, not quite as often, but sometimes there's what I like to call the Ted factor happening with Pooh in this movie, where you just see him or his friends in the real world walking around and chilling, and it's absolutely adorable. Hilarious stuff.
These acorns are weighing me down, but I can't let go.
It's amazing how great the stuffies look in the rain, too, and the wind, and even underwater at one point. It's not the cutest version of Pooh, but hands down the most impressive from an animation standpoint. Him and his friends flawlessly interact with the world around them, for the most part. I just wish these characters were a little more vibrant. Yeah, they've aged along with C-Rob, and they're filming in the actual Ashdown Forest, which has a color palette of gray and more gray. But a little more color to these characters could have bumped up the cuteness factor. Something they probably weren't really going for, but something that's important to me. When it comes to how the voice cast portrayed the 100 Acre Wooders though, this movie is quite possibly an all-timer. Not only do you get Jim Cummings with what could be his best Pooh performance ever, but you get a ton of new additions to the cast that absolutely knock it out of the park, including Nick Mohammed replacing Oates as Piglet, which I personally think is an improvement.
They're my very favourite snack. Wherever you may go, they'll remind you of the 100 Acre Wood.
It's interesting that Cummings, who also reprised his role of Tigger, wasn't actually the one originally planned for that role. Chris O'Dowd was replaced late in the game due to poor reception by test audiences, comparing the actor's portrayal of our favorite hyperactive kitty cat to more of a British jester than what they had grown used to and had in mind for the character of Tigger. Honestly, hearing how they described his voice kind of reminds me of a series that I'm shocked I haven't brought up yet. The World According to Winnie the Pooh, a 2014 series pitched to Disney that unfortunately wasn't picked up. I mean, look how cute it is. I don't like them staring at screens or being in a gentrified 100 Acre Wood, but at least it's 2D. Regardless though, listen to Tigger's voice here.
Well, hello, new friend. Hey, good-looking fella.
Took me a little bit to get used to, and definitely is a topic of conversation when I show people this pilot, but after a bit, I really like this version of Tigger. I don't know, kind of off topic, but something to think about.
This is very confusing.
As far as the live action cast of this film, they crushed it. Haley Atwell and, like I said, Ewan McGregor, especially Ewan McGregor. You can really feel his connection with Pooh throughout the film, perfectly embodying a grown-up Christopher Robin.
Pooh's my best friend.
That emotional roller coaster he takes us on, unmatched across these Pooh movies. Not just those sentimental moments we talked about earlier, but when he really loses his cool and freaks out, that shit hits so hard.
We've just been going round in a great big circle. What's the matter with you? All you had to do was follow the compass.
All we had to do was follow the damn train, CJ.
And the subtle little interactions he has with Pooh, absolutely adorable. You can really feel the quote-unquote boy and his bear aspect of these two whenever they're on screen together. I also love when Pooh finally gets to interact with Madeline Robin. Some classic Poohisms in that scene.
You're talking.
Me? No, I'm not talking. Oh, well, I am now, I suppose.
My favorite part of the movie, though, has to be when we first see Pooh show back up and see Rob's life. Holy shit. It doesn't just rock emotionally, but it is full of some banger Pooh one-liners.
I've cracked.
I've totally cracked. I don't see any cracks. A few wrinkles, maybe.
I gotta say, this is one of my favorite sequences in any Pooh picture. Plus, it's got a hilarious ending with Christopher and Funny Gin Rummy Man. A bit that really showcases the underrated and understated humor of this film. I love how they sprinkle it throughout such a heavy piece of Pooh media. And boy, oh boy, is this a heavy movie. There's those funny moments too. A good balance of clever Poohish writing and fun physical comedy. But it's almost Pavlovian how quickly the tears come watching this picture. Because this isn't just the last Disney Pooh film, but it's the last Disney Pooh film I watched on my Watch Pooh. And what a mistake that was. Stuff as simple as Pooh Sticks was making me weep, bawling my eyes out at goddamn twigs in a stream. The first 10 minutes alone felt like up to me. And honestly, the characters' palettes being kind of understated plays into that strong melancholy feeling, so what the hell do I know? That big sad, though, is sometimes laid on a little too thick. The sad's a little too big. I think the concept of accusing a film of emotional manipulation is silly. It's a movie, a story. That's what it's there for, to manipulate your emotions, to make you feel something. And I love emotional Pooh moments. Y'all know that. Like when Pooh just casually hits this.
Well, I think about you every day.
I had to stop the film for like 2 minutes after that just to cry. I don't know how I could have ever seen this in theaters. It's so much. But hey, not really a criticism per se. Just me being pussy. I have heard the main critique people have for this film though, that being how played out the plot point is of a dad struggling to connect to his inner child and therefore his family. But to me, that's like saying a song is overplayed. I'm sorry you've seen Jingle All the Way too many times, but don't blame my boy Ewan for that. This isn't Lie or Reveal, and this isn't the late 90s. If that trope is done well, like I really think it is here, being supported by so much of what we love about Pooh, I have all the time in the world for it. In fact, I even find it a little relatable at times. I do think the ending is a little convoluted though. I won't go into the details of the resolution used by C-Rob to fix the problem he's having at his job, but I will add that it's cute how they tie it into the philosophy of the 100-Acre Wood, as long as you don't think about it too hard.
This is very confusing.
This movie also has a beautiful score, especially when they start using those classic Pooh tracks. Plus, it's amazing to see Richard Sherman, the co-composer of so many classic Pooh songs, get a little ditty during the credits. Love that. What a fitting way to end the Disney Pooh era. Rest in peace to a legend of not only Pooh music, but all kinds of Disney classics. This is an A-tier film. Stellar filmmaking with exceptional cinematography and the longest runtime of any Pooh movie to date. But it doesn't really drag other than being so emotionally taxing. Like I said, it's powerful, but maybe a little too powerful. And so much of that has to do with the fact that they take such full advantage of the feelings we all have intertwined with Pooh and the 100-Acre Wood. There's so much they can pull from that fires off that nostalgia button in people's brains.
Hello, Eeyore.
Hello, Heffalump.
Not a Heffalump. I'm Christopher Robin.
But it never feels forced. It never panders. Really setting this apart from the other Disney live-action reinterpretations that this unfairly gets lumped in with. Oh, no, not that one. That one rocks. But maybe that's just my nostalgia talking. Hell, maybe every single one of these rankings is just my nostalgia talking. But in an era where nostalgia is so grossly monetized, isn't it kind of nice for a piece of our childhoods to exist in a place that's so pure? Maybe that's why the modern era of Disney has fumbled the IP so hard. Despite outselling Mickey Mouse, despite being damn near Garfield levels of merchandise popularity, Pooh has somehow avoided that big corporate stink that follows those kind of characters around these days.
I just think all of the 100-Acre Wood characters and all these stories and all the feeling that you get, it's not tied to any fad.
I'm nuts about this guy. Hi, buddy. Good to see you.
But that's because Pooh has something that none of those other characters have. Heart. He's not the mascot for a brand, and his origins expand far past three-panel jokes. These were stories told by a father to his son. They weren't there to sell a product or push something. They were there to make a kid smile. And I don't know, even in the worst of these pictures, I still feel that heart. And that's why Pooh is so special to me. No matter what the world's like or what my life is like, the 100-Acre Wood's always going to feel like home. And for better or worse, not even Disney can wring this IP out for every cent it's worth. And if they can't do it, surely nobody can. Right? That's it. Right? No, don't look at that runtime. Don't look at that runtime. No!
you've brought me back here for blood and honey?
So I assume you didn't like the film.
Oh, no, I did not. I did not, Killian Tube. Big Dustin Wilson, by the way. Hello.
They've seen you're the guy with the sunglasses and the blunt.
I am okay with the use of these new properties that enter public domain. But what I am not okay with is unapologetically lazy filmmaking from every aspect of the first film. It is absolutely rough. From production design, costume design, acting, scripting, pacing. It's a really, really tough watch.
Yeah, you can tell they heard Pooh was going into the public domain, and they immediately, as fast as they could, started filming. They got the script done, they got the casting done, they got the costuming done, and they got it out as quick as possible. And I don't mean to be like evil capitalist man right now, but in a way, it fucking worked. They made this movie with costumes and shit lighting for $100,000, and they made over $7 million on it.
Oof, me. That's crazy.
I can sit here and be like, they rushed it out. But from a business perspective, them rushing it out was brilliant.
Well, I think the story was that they kept getting more money that they made from the first one to put into the sequel. So they just started adding more and more nonsense. How in the beginning of the sequel, there's just a random explosion that just looks really nice.
Yeah.
It's because it's just an actual explosion. It's kind of funny that they're like, yo, first thing that we're going to do with this $7 million, pyrotechnics guy. Let's bring him in.
They also way improved the costumes on the second one. Because of all the things you mentioned and what was shitty about the original Blood and Honey, what stood out to me had to be the costuming. Any sense of tension. Even with the score, which, shocker, I'm going to say, a Winnie the Pooh movie has a good score. Andrew Scott Bell rocked the music in this film. I loved it. I loved it a lot. But that building sense of tension, and anytime you did get good acting, because some of the women in the movie were decent actors. Anytime that tension would build, you'd see Pooh, and it would completely break the tension. The moment would be completely ruined by this weird, smooth bear. He doesn't have any fur. He looks like if you oiled him up, he could slide for a really long time.
Everything is so dark. Nothing stands out. And I know it's a horror movie, so you need to light it in that sense. We need that sense of tension there. But the issue comes where you have all these dark lights and, maybe there's something bright through the walls that you can just barely see, or a silhouette. But all of that is done the worst way possible.
Right.
And I'm not even talking about, they just missed it. I'm talking about this is fundamentally bad.
The scene in the hot tub where the hot girl with the big boobies is dancing around, and Piglet and Pooh are walking slowly towards the hot tub. Shit. The light's flickering, but that doesn't play into the tension of the scene at all. No. You see them just trotting up there the whole time. And can we talk about Piglet for a second? We shit on the smooth Pooh costume, but they just made Piglet Pigsy from Manhunt. He is a small and very timid creature. He does not look like nasty chainsaw penis pig.
I really like that they kind of leaned in to the foreskin design of Piglet.
The what?
Have you never noticed? Piglet kind of looks like a little penis with some foreskin on it.
Are you saying that Piglet is actually Dicklet?
Look at him. Look, he's kind of got
Wait a second. God damn it, you're onto something here, Dustin. I need to take this Pooh suit off. So yeah, Piglet also had his world-famous Piglet sledgehammer. You know, from all the movies, Piglet always has his big hammer and big chains.
He said it's time to play the game.
Exactly.
What if he held the top of the sledgehammer
and hit somebody in the stomach?
Sledgehammer! What?
None of the kills have anything to do with Pooh at all. And I know that that's a take that we've already heard. Yeah. Ed says that in his Big Pooh video. It has a couple moments. He, like, bee bends, and the bees chase down the guy.
Yeah.
And then there's a scene where he's flipping C-Rob with Eeyore's tail. But I didn't even know that was Eeyore's tail. I had to look it up on goddamn Wikipedia.
Yeah, like Cinema Sins #1, Sin Counter +1. How the f*** are we supposed to know that as an audience? The only inkling of information that we have about Eeyore in the film is the very beginning, and that actually pretty decent, like, animatic.
Right, it's like a scary version of the classic Shepherd Pooh illustrations. I like it. I wish the whole movie looked like that.
If only. But, like, that's the only time that Eeyore is even remotely mentioned in the film. My issue with both of these films is none of these kills have any weight to them. And I think that's another big thing about horror, is that sound design is key.
Yeah.
We need something with impact. The second one does a little bit better in a lot of aspects of that, but the first one, it's just lazy.
It's an assembly line movie. They just got it out. The second one, I think, has a couple kills that really stand out to me. In particular, the dishwasher kill. I rewatched it this morning, and I noticed that they even tease the dishwasher earlier in the film. And that comes back when Pooh fucking takes her head and slams it over and over again. It's not the Jason X freeze scene by any means. It's not that creative. The dishwasher's not that integral to the plot like I would really, really want something to be.
Well, that's a big thing when it comes to horror as well. It's like there's setups, there's payoffs,
right?
You know? And the first one's got nothing. First one's got nothing. Yeah. It's just a cabin in the woods story with Pooh. The second one, we actually see some setups, like the dishwasher. Good job, guys. You did something right. I'll give it credit.
You know what else the second one does right?
What?
My favorite character in any of these films. There he is right there. Oh my God, he's flying through the sky. Baby boy, it's Al. I f***ing love his ridiculous Labyrinth f***ing Power Rangers Ivan Ooze ass design. All the silly shit he says. What a goofy, goofy son of a bitch. Tigger, on the other hand, I think we both feel as though they kind of fumbled.
I am all down for some Freddy Krueger references. And that's essentially what Tigger is. Just a big, dumb Freddy Krueger knockoff.
He has 20 lines. He says bitch in 5 of them.
Better watch where you go, bitch. That's bitch. You can run, but you can't hide, bitch.
He's awesome. We see Owl throughout the whole entire film.
Yeah, he's the first kill.
He's the first thing that we see. I don't even think we see Pooh before we see Owl.
No, we don't see Pooh until he starts rocking the RV.
Yeah. What an introduction to our main antagonist. Tigger, I guess they're like building him up as like this big deal, because it's like, ooh, Tigger's in the public domain, guys. What the fuck are we gonna do with him? But it's like, they don't do shit with him.
Yeah, he was all over the marketing, but we don't really see him do anything until the very, very end of the movie.
In some nonsensical throwaway, like, big party kill scene, which, while fun and some, like, really interesting kills, I don't know, it loses me by that point. Because I see too much of Pooh, I see too much of Tigger.
Tigger suit looks like shit.
Yeah.
You said he looks like a character from Cats, but I think the Owl design is really, really fun. He reminds me of the Spider-Man villain.
Turn Off
Vulture.
the Dark. No, I think he looks like the Green Goblin from Turn Off the Dark. Look at this They're exactly the same.
That's horrifying.
You gotta play them doing the performance Like, he does, like, his big little number, and he's got all the gays behind him.
There's a bunch of gay Spider-Men?
No, he's
gay
just,
Greek
like,
goblins?
Freaks, yeah.
The gay freaks! Let's talk about the fact that C-Rob in the first movie is probably the worst actor I've ever seen in any motion picture in my entire life.
Yeah.
Atrocious acting. Pooh, we were best friends, Pooh. I know that explain the plot-ass dialogue is like rough and hard to get over well, but you gotta give me more than,
you gotta give me
oh no. But in the second movie,
yeah.
when Tigger shows up, first time C-Rob has seen Tigger since he was a little demented kid, he doesn't go, oh my god, that's Tigger from my childhood. He shoots him in the f***ing stomach immediately, and that's the difference between the two C-Robs.
The first one, I think, misses the boat in that there is a interesting concept of Christopher Robin leaving these creatures behind.
Yeah.
And then them going like crazy, like, all that bullshit. Christopher Robin's obviously the more interesting aspect of that film.
Right. You have all these characters that really, when you get down to the meat of the characters, they can't change. Christopher Robin is a human being that hasn't grown up yet, and you can develop him into literally anything.
And the second one hits on that so much more, and honestly, it's kind of what makes the film good from my perspective.
100%.
I think all the Christopher Robin stuff in the sequel is genuinely kind of sick. Him being like the town pariah, nobody trusting him or believing him until they're met with these goddamn freaks from the 100 Acre Woods.
It's
you
so
know?
cool.
That weird little retcon that they do, because the first one, it's just, they're just like a bunch of weird humanoid things that just eat Eeyore because they get hungry.
Eeyore would be okay with that, to be
definitely
fair.
would,
He'd
yeah.
be like, go
That's in
ahead,
character.
eat me. But in the second one, all of a sudden, they're homunculus creatures that have been created by someone injecting DNA into an egg. There's an evil scientist angle, Dustin.
It is the dumbest retcon possible.
And it rocks.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. It's really fun. You got that weird scene with the janitor that's just like pops out of nowhere.
The scene with the janitor, I unironically believe, is one of the most well-performed scenes. It's up there with Rabbit opening up the chest in Springtime with Rue. It's up there with like some of the shit we see in Finder Keeper. I think both Christopher Robin and Funny Janitor Man both crush that scene. Incredible lighting, incredible score. This film takes big swings.
Yeah.
Sometimes it hits a pop-up, and they catch it and they're out. Sometimes it hits a dinger, goddammit, and that scene is a fucking dinger.
Yeah, it's enjoyable. That's what the film is. It's a good fucking time. It
Yeah.
sucks.
It's a romp. It's a
Yeah.
fun little romp through the 100 Acre Wood.
My issues with the second one are that we just see so much of the animals.
Right. The second one is the first movie ever to benefit from focusing more on the humans than the funny animal creatures. And that's coming from a Sonic the Hedgehog fan.
And I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to do the big dumb sequel for the fans, you know? Where we overexpose what brought people to the first one.
Right.
This is like Jason Takes Manhattan. This is Terrifier 2.
Yeah.
But when you try so much and you go so much in a different direction, sometimes you lose it. And I think that that's where it loses it for me. It's trying its hardest.
Yeah.
There is some decent effort in the second one, as opposed to the first one, which at times just feels like a fucking AI movie.
It feels almost like they had this slasher film ready to go, and then they found out Pooh was going into the public domain, and they slapped Pooh on top of it. But in the second one, they're playing Pooh sticks with body parts. Someone read a book in between the movies, I swear. Not only does it have more character and more effort, but I think Christopher Robin, his performance alone really sets these movies apart. I think he's everything that Whistle Baby, Whistle Baby Hunger Games, everything he wants to be. What is that guy's fucking name?
Peter
Griffin.
Griffin.
Josh Hutcherson.
Josh Hutcherson.
Yeah, Whistle Baby. Everything that funny Whistle Baby wanted to be in the FNaF movie, C-Rob in this film knocks it out of the fucking park. The relationship he has with his little sister is so cute. When you first meet the two and they're like trading little jabs back and forth and she's calling him weird and stuff, it's adorable. Cuter than anything in the FNaF movie. Now, the FNaF movie has fucking Henson puppets. So of course they're gonna look better than these fucking B-movie horror costumes. But other than the costuming, I really think Blood and Honey 2, in a lot of ways, is FNaF but better.
I think what FNaF does better is some of the story beats. I think actually telling the story from A to B, it works a lot better than Blood and Honey 2. What I don't think FNaF does better than Blood and Honey are the kills. There's a balance struck. FNaF just kind of says, oh, these animatronics are cool now, as opposed to Blood and Honey, where it's like, we can kind of enjoy ourselves.
Yeah.
With seeing, like, a Pooh Bear punch a woman's head off.
Right,
You know?
that's also the difference between a PG-13 movie and an R-rated movie. I'm more looking at it from the standpoint of, at least we had funny janitor to explain why the Pooh version of William Afton experimented on all these kids and made them into evil bear and evil owl and evil rabbit. Where the f*** is Rabbit?
Where is he? Well, he left.
You do see it in the credits. He's like, be honest.
Be honest.
Do you think they ruined his Easter again?
They probably did. They probably f***ed off his carrot patch, bro. They always do.
Well, that's another thing. They're starving. Where's Rabbit's carrot patch?
You don't eat your vegetables? You go straight for eating your friend?
Sick bastards.
I want to let you know that if there was a perfectly okay carrot patch, we were both starving, I'd eat you in a heartbeat.
Dude, and you'd slowly lose your mind.
And say, oh no.
Oh, I gotta get my brother. Both of us feel as though, inherently, Pooh horror does not work. Pooh horror is kind of a silly fucking concept. But, if you had to, do you think there's something scary about the 100 Acre Wood? Do you think you can make anything about Pooh? I'm not saying fucking Hereditary, but maybe like an Evil Dead 2?
I don't know. If I'm to play like armchair quarterback, essentially, I believe that Pooh Bear inherently isn't scary.
Right.
And trying to make him scary makes no sense. The scariest thing about him is that he's a bear. That's about it. But like,
it's something you don't think about though.
Like, a bear's scary. He's kind. He's sweet. He's oafish.
Yeah.
As opposed to in Blood and Honey 2, something like Owl or Tigger, they're like over the top, and you actually kind of see some of their characteristics from the original book series and other adaptations, because Owl is a narcissist that talks a lot. Tigger is a piece of shit.
He's tried to kill Eeyore.
Yes.
I don't know if it's on purpose, but a lot of times. It's really disturbing when you think about it. But the way he like twitches as Tigger, some of the lines, when the group says, we gotta fucking bounce, and he goes, that's my line. Like, I can hear Jim Cummings saying that. When he shows up and he's like, hello everybody. That's very Tigger.
Yes.
But once he starts saying bitch, I don't know about all that.
But that works. That makes sense for what the character is.
Within that universe.
Yes. Pooh Bear isn't that. Pooh Bear's like a little dumb sweetheart who cares about people. And I think the story of Pooh and the 100 Acre Woods, it could be something, but not scary. It could be thoughtful, I think. Because I think there is something to say about something like not changing.
The eternal childhood.
Yes, staying in this comfort zone.
Yeah.
That other things have hit and are able to be serious and are able to be pretty unsettling at times. Something like the live action Where the Wild Things Are.
Yeah.
Hits on that perfectly.
When you're the king, look at me. I'm big. How could guys like us worry about a tiny little thing like the sun?
That sense of losing yourself in comfortability and in a safe space.
That can be very scary.
It can be. But you can also lean into that without making Pooh a monster who kills people.
Yeah, absolutely. He could be the representation of that inherent, I don't want to say laziness, but that's stuck in your childhood.
Yeah.
He can be the representation of that pulling in the character of Christopher Robin, or whoever the protagonist is.
And I know you've talked about it, but I think a film that does that really well is the Christopher Robin movie that Disney made a while ago. I think that that's some of the best aspects of that film. And that film also does that without alienating and demonizing Pooh Bear and friends.
Right, you still love Pooh through that whole thing.
gotta.
Christopher Robin is annoyed with Pooh.
Yeah.
But you're more annoyed with Christopher Robin. You say, why don't you love that little bear, you
But
sick son of a
also,
bitch?
Christopher Robin does love Pooh Bear and does care for him because he sees that as his extension of his childhood.
Yeah.
And I think that film does a great job acknowledging your childhood and keeping it with you, but not letting it consume you and be who you are. And it can be a comfortable place, but you can't stay there. And I think that something like that can be hit on, but I don't know if it's a dumb slasher movie.
It's not a dumb slasher movie.
No.
It's 100% not a dumb slasher movie. I think the scariest thing about Pooh is this picture of Eeyore pretending to be Winnie the Pooh right here.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
What the
I don't like it either. Like you said at the beginning of the review, the main issue with this movie is laziness. And the second one takes some big swings, and it's about 50-50 on whether they work. It's at least fun. But throughout all this negativity that we're saying about both of these movies, honestly, I don't think it should discourage anybody from trying with these public domain characters.
I completely agree.
Because I think there's going to be people like you and me that really, really know Winnie the Pooh that are going to be able to do awesome, thoughtful things with these IPs that we're not seeing from Disney. My mom is a grade school teacher, and she asked her kids, do any of you know who Winnie the Pooh is? And not a single one of them knew who it was. So at least with Blood and Honey, he's out there, and he exists still. As much as this fucking movie sucks, it's more than what Disney's doing with him.
It's fair, it's fair. Hopefully people can pick up the scraps.
I think they will. I think we are in for a lot of slop, but I think there's going to be some gems in there.
Let's hope.
That's why we are here to announce our Winnie the Pooh horror movie. Just kidding. You know what we haven't talked about that I want to cover?
What?
The Poohniverse. Oh, what about all these other creatures? Bambi? Snow White?
Bambi's so f***ing nothing. It's just a deer. What do you mean Bambi?
Bambi doesn't even really have like a personality.
No,
in
the most
Bambi
notable
movie.
thing Bambi does is his f***ing mom gets shot.
It's just a good-looking film.
It's just a beautiful movie. What the f*** is he gonna? He's gonna eat the honey and turn into a beast.
Yep, exactly.
An Eldritch bloodborne ass enemy. It's f***ed up.
You see him tease throughout the movie. It's like radioactive waste infects deer.
Oh my God.
And then you see him, he pops up at the end. They're really pushing Bambi because that's who Pooh rides. He rides Bambi into town and chops people's heads off and fucks them. Or
Why?
whatever. I also don't like in the first movie that Pooh rips the lady's shirt off for no reason. And I've seen Reanimator.
But fucking Pinocchio.
Yeah! Fucking producer Miles just looked up when we said Pinocchio, and you said this earlier. Horror Pinocchio might work.
Kind of it works. Yeah, it works.
Of any of these characters.
Because you could play with like some type of cosmic horror aspect of that, right?
Yeah.
You could do something interesting with that. Peter Pan, I don't know what the they're gonna do.
Peter Pan! I'm gonna take children. I crucified the Lost Boys.
Whatever the fuck, like...
I'm Captain Hook!
It's stupid! Why? Who gives a shit? I've never been more disinterested in a fucking new multiverse type nonsense than fucking the Dark Universe with Tom Cruise. Fucking nothing. Earth is dead. Winnie the Pooh is here.
Yeah, and his proportions are all off.
Well, he slimmed down, which good for him, but like...
I'm not happy about it.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm just fat Pooh.
Michelle Obama school lunch program. So I realized we did that whole review and completely forgot the entire point of the video. So, Blood and Honey 1 is F tier. Probably the worst movie I've ever sat all the way through. I've turned off Ultraviolet, I've turned off Leo, but unfortunately I did not have the luxury of doing that with this film. As far as Blood and Honey 2, I had a good time. C tier. Low C tier, but better than most things that Lumpy's in. I guess that's it. Here are all the rankings. Obviously the better ones are on the left when you're talking about an individual tier. The farther they are right, the worse I think they are. Ooh, look at that. Wow. Ooh, what a hot take. And here is the list of films in order from worst to best. 17 to 1. Ooh, wow. Hold your applause, hold your applause. I know. Very impressive. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you all ever so much.